I'm getting it right. Been up them days and I've been up them nights. I got the plan and I didn't look twice. All for the simplest life.
The little thing matter, they saw what she needed. If you could provide them, then she won't be leaving. The man in my family can't be no teachers. You learn what you see and no money can't be the security for, but it's important even if you're poor. Why pick a fence and a reef on the door? We from the basement, concrete's on the floor.
Concrete on the deck with a rim, I'm calling check. In a simple autumn weather, get my daughter all that's left when the father laid to rest. The money never made me, I'm more than I invest. In the morning I'm a mess, but waking up next to makes it worth it. Said I put in more effort. Said I can't be perfect, but I
woke up the days that I'm getting it right. Been up them days and I've been up the nights. I got the plan and I didn't look twice. All for the simplest life. I put the pain in the shit that I write. Take it for straight, gotta give it some time. Hop off the train at the end of the line. That was a simpler time.
Thank the sky for slowing time, shit got too complicated, yeah. Pace myself, the paper swells, I'm patient, not complacent. I'm like the sea when it meets the horizon now. Yeah. No one can shake me, not even Poseidon now. Live long and sing my song, so black and free. That's all I really want this life to be. Green trees, blossom round my seas with green stash, with the lock and key. Yeah. Wouldn't that be perfect if the world ran on fulfilled purpose and our persons worked like their purchases, filling purses of wealthy service, kneel down and look up, filling up a place of worship, praying for days of hurtless. Someone come break the curses. Maybe that's what my worth is. Paint a new picture perfect.
Woke up the days that I'm getting it right. Been up them days and I've been up the nights. I got the plan and I didn't look twice. All for the simplest life. I put the pain in the shit that I write. Take it for straight, gotta give it some time. Hop off the train at the end of the line. That was a simpler time.
I've been renewed. New day, a new try. I know a calling on my life. Gotta get it, gotta strive. What I'm going off for. He done really blessed the boy. Before I can ask for it. He gave me life, he gave me more. He gave me driving, now I'm whipping. There's so much power in the vision. All of the past has been forgiven. I gotta get it, gotta get it. Gotta get it, I know it's power in a vision. And I can't be walking by his side where my faith leading. I know he got in every move, so I move different. So every win you see on me, just know my God did it. I just walked away. I had to surrender to her and let go to pain. You gave me drive and I ain't been whipping the same. I gave you the will and you put me in my own lane. Amen, amen. I've been renewed. New day, a new try. I know a calling on my life. Gotta get it, gotta strive. What I'm going off for. He done really blessed the boy. Before I can ask for it. He gave me life, he gave me more. He gave me driving, now I'm whipping. There's so much power in the vision. All of the past has been forgiven. I gotta get it, gotta get it. I won't conform to the world, I gotta renew my mind. I gotta pray up, pray up. I know it all alone. Tapped into the source, now it's in decline like it's overdrawn. We so on, we way up. Ever since you saved us, it's lit up. I've been renewed. New day, a new try. I know calling on my life. Gotta get it, gotta strive. But I'm going all for it. He done really blessed the boy. Before I could ask for it, he gave me life and gave me more. He gave me driving, now I'm whipping. There's so much power in the vision. All of the past has been forgiven. I gotta get it, gotta get it.
We need to find out more about any kind of identifiers on the shooter, who he was, what his motivations were.
Here's what we know right now. Just moments ago, law enforcement identified the gunman as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. No motive has been identified yet.
We do not currently have an identified motive, although our investigators are working tirelessly to identify what that motive was.
I am poring over this individual's background in their history. Nothing we are seeing right now points to whatever it was that drove this individual to get on top of that roof today. We don't know exactly what the motive is.
He was bullied almost every day. I mean, he would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays. So, like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
We don't yet have any information about the motive of the shooter. We know who he is. I urge everyone, please, don't make assumptions about his motives or his affiliations. Let the FBI do their job.
President Biden today arguing that Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy.
Trump's not concerned about your future, I promise you. Trump is now promising a full-scale campaign of revenge and retribution for some years to come.
I am so concerned. I know we have all these conversations about how Democrats can't scare people to the polls. I am scared.
Let me help you out. I don't think that the threat that Trump poses is really being taken seriously enough by some people. Liz Cheney, who I've worked for and known for 20 years, recently said that she warned that we may be sleepwalking into a dictatorship.
One of the things that we see happening today is sort of a sleepwalking into a dictatorship in the United States.
We don't take an oath to a country, to a tribe, to a religion, to a king, or to a tyrant, or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
What is central here is, do we want a dictator? No matter how popular he may be, no matter how good or bad the results of his policies may be, no president is supposed to be a dictator in the United States.
I know Trump would like to become dictator for life, and he's probably watching Vladimir Putin with envy.
Donald Trump believes that he should be the ruler, the dictator of the United States of America. He actually is looking to change the Constitution.
There's no question he has authoritarian rulings and interests and notions which he will try and impose. That's dangerous for the country. And a number of the things he did in the last months of his presidency suggest what he'd do if he were elected again.
Trump represents an existential threat to democracy. He's an authoritarian figure. He's the first authoritarian figure ever nominated by a major party in the United States.
This rhetoric is so far outside the bounds of our normal politics that we have to address it as such. He doesn't see himself as a political candidate vying for the presidency. He sees himself as an insurgent who wants to overthrow the U.S. government. And that's what a lot of his people believe, too. He's completely outside the bounds of our political normalcy.
That hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says Make America Great Again, that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Do you still think it's fair to compare the Nazi attack on the Jews to what happened on January 6th?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like a threat to democracy. I know with my father, who was part of the Nazi party, they were lied to. They were misled. And I think a lot of people in America today are being misled.
Most people would agree Donald Trump might be the most divisive presidential candidate ever. Many are openly comparing Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Yes. There are just people who are going to be conservative, and they're about to take over the government. And they're not going to give it back.
Historians are now comparing what Donald Trump is saying in public on the campaign trail to dictators like Mussolini. He would try to stay in power forever.
If he becomes president again, he's never going, listen, he's not going to not stop being president. You understand this? Yeah. His idea is to stay in until he drops dead.
That's it. He's not even conceding it now. So imagine if he actually did win the election. Yeah. It's over. If he gets elected, it's going to change this country for everybody.
We have a president who will refuse to leave office if he loses the election.
I never expected that my successor would embrace my vision or continue my policies. I did hope, for the sake of our country, that Donald Trump might show some reverence for the democracy that had been placed in his care. But he never did. Donald Trump hasn't grown into the job because he can't. And the consequences of that failure are severe.
They don't understand because they're saying that 26-year-olds and under are not feeling President Biden. You know, they better be careful what they want because this is the generation that's going to lose their abortion rights and their voting rights. They're the ones to be worried. You don't replace dissatisfaction with a dictatorship.
Trump will put black people in camps.
If that man gets in, as soon as he takes the oath, he will have generals walk down the steps of the Capitol. He will take a hammer and break the glass where the Constitution is, and he will tear it up in our faces and say, now, I'm the king of the world. You will bow down, bitches. He will punish everybody that didn't vote for him. Let me tell y'all how I know this. I know it because I know what mental illness looks like.
We need to remind people the threat that Donald Trump poses, not just for 4 years, but for generations. Supreme Court is at risk. Women's rights are at risk. Civil rights are at risk. And I would just remind people of that.
You think that it's appropriate that somebody who incited that riot and won't apologize for it should get another term to run the country? He's 5 years old and he's a horrible, amoral human being. We can't have him. There are times I almost wish I could, or somebody else would. We can't have him. He's dangerous.
Why don't we have any idea who his VP is going to be? Is it because he's not running for president of the United States? He's running for king of the United States, and there's no such thing as a vice king. This is a man who has been very clear that he plans to be a dictator. This is not going to end well for any of us. Dictatorships never do. So we would be smart to kill this one before it starts.
Oh, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hold, when you're ready, on you. Ready, move.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching another episode of Cutting Through the Culture. I'm one of your hosts, Quisha King, and tonight's episode is a bit of a sad one because, as you all know, we've all talked about our former president, Donald Trump. There was an attempted assassination on his life yesterday at his rally in Pennsylvania. I think the time was around 6:12, I believe, 6:07, 6:12, where, there was an attempt to end his life. And as the montage shows that Chad O. Jackson so brilliantly put together was the rhetoric, the political rhetoric, the political lies from a particular side of our country. And we're going to be discussing that tonight. It's why, certainly, it's one of the reasons why we have this show, Cutting Through the Culture, because unless you figure out, identify what people believe and get to the core of what they believe, we won't really be able to get to the core of these types of situations and why they happen. Now, I mean, on a spiritual level, as believers, we know that we live in a fallen world, and these things happen because we live in a sinful, fallen world. We can't lay that aside, but I guess I should say, building on top of that is the idea that what people believe dictates their culture. So that's why we have this show. What do you believe? Whose side are you on? And yeah, I'm gonna say a side, because ultimately it's right or wrong. Are you standing in objective truth, or are you just living in some type of fantasy world? And in the montage, you hear all of these fantastical ideas that, Trump wants to be a dictator. And if he gets back in, he's just going to be a dictator. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, but I was here when he was in office for 4 years, and none of these things happened. None of these scare tactics of, oh, he's going to be a dictator and he just wants to be king. And, all of these weird, just lies that they just made up. And when I say they, I'm predominantly speaking of the left. And we saw some people on the right as well. The uniparty is definitely in full effect. And so as we discuss this, we should be mindful of, let's be responsible in how we talk about these things, because we don't want to be an addition to the heightened rhetoric that's going on in our country right now. Certainly always want to respect our First Amendment rights to free speech. But with that does come responsibility. I am excited to get into this show. The image that just keeps playing in my mind as bullets went through his ear and millimeters away from his brain, his head. He gets up, he tells his Secret Service to wait. This was just fascinating to me. He says, wait, so he can pump his fist, so he can address the American people and say, fight, fight, fight. Know what you're fighting for. This is important. Why we are doing this, because our children have to grow up in this country that we are leaving behind. And these communists, I know we talk about it a lot, but we talk about it because it's real. This is exactly what this leads to. That's why we talk about these things. But, it really showed what Donald Trump is made of. It was so inspiring to see him say, wait, let me talk to the people. And all he said was fight. And he said, USA. And then the crowd started chanting USA. And that iconic picture that I'm sure we'll show tonight throughout the episode of Trump with his fist in the air and the American flag waving behind him was so inspiring to me. I'm like, who wants some? I'm ready. Like I'm ready to, I'm ready to go. I'm on one, because it was like we were seeing what a real man is about in those times of pressure. I mean, as a woman, I can tell you right now, if a bullet was going by my head, hit me at all, I'm sorry, I would my first instinct would not have been to get up and say, keep fighting. It wouldn't have. It just wouldn't have been. I'm sorry, I would have been in prayer, and thinking about my children, I guarantee. So I just think it showed incredible strength. It was very inspiring to me to just, have that resolve. Anyway, I can go on and on and on about that part. It was just so it's just so touching, so inspiring. It inspired me. I think we know for sure Donald Trump loves this country. We don't always agree. I will speak for myself. I don't always agree. Obviously, it's very few people that we can 100% agree with all the time. But at this moment in time, I will be one of those people who will crawl over broken glass to go and vote for him. And so, yeah, let's get more into this this incredible topic. I want to bring up my friend Teach 'em Chuck, Mr. Chuck Littleton, because he said earlier as we were preparing for tonight's show that he was like, I don't even know if I want to go there, y'all, because I'm just so angry, and I understand how you feel, Chuck. So this raw emotion that you have, what is going on in your mind? Like, how did you feel when you saw that, what transpired, and just take it from here. Oh wait, hold on, you're muted.
There we go. It's one of those moments, it's the old cliche, you remember where you were when you found out.
Yeah.
I heard that about JFK's assassination. Everybody remembers what they were doing. I remember what I was doing. I was leaving the mall. Wife, we were out having a nice day. Spent a little quality time together. And, I looked over at my phone and I actually noticed, first thing I saw was, I think it may have been Dr. Michael Savage, or it may have been my good friend Sub-Zero, who I just got off of a live with before I came on here. And they were both talking about it. And of course, I read the upload. It said President Trump shot. And I saw the thumbnail that Sub-Zero had, and I saw that he was standing up. And I don't know why, I just immediately, I just knew, for some strange, I just knew the shot wasn't fatal. Just from that photograph, I just said I don't know. I just assumed that. Luckily, I was correct. And so I looked at it. I didn't say nothing. I just put my phone back in my pocket. My wife was with me. I didn't even say nothing to her. And I waited till I got in the car. And then I tapped in. I was listening to Sub-Zero. Then I went over and started listening to Michael Savage. And it took my wife a second to catch on to what was going on. I don't know. She was hearing it, but I don't think she was perceiving what was happening. Mm-hmm. And so that was my dad. That's how I found out what happened. And so, I was quite miffed. I'm still miffed. That's why, like you said, Quisha, Chad, we had another show lined up. Chad asked if we should, talk about this, because this is it. This is how can you talk about anything else at this moment? I got my shirt on. I know everybody's kind of making a statement with their apparel today, except Chad, right? He's not going to participate. But you see, I got my shirt. Y'all see, I had to show y'all. Make sure I offend somebody. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Grab them by the you-know-what. The man ain't never offended me. You want to know why? Because Donald Trump says about the establishment or politicians, he says things about them that we all wish we could say if we had an opportunity to speak to them, if we had an opportunity to let our voices be heard, because we ain't never liked them anyway, right? And so there you have it. As far as I'm concerned, President Trump ain't harsh enough. His Twitter ain't harsh enough for me, but that's just me. That's why I'm not a politician. I just go on social media and speak my mind. I don't have to play those games. And so, I know, Quisha, you said that we have to be responsible in what we say. We have to be responsible in how we respond. And so I'm going to try my best to take heed of that. I'm not into the conspiracy theories. I don't care. I'm not into whether or not it was staged or whether it was this and that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a game. This is not a drill. It hasn't been a drill for a very, very long time. Despotism is real. Totalitarianism is real. You may not know of a person personally who survived life under some of the harshest regimes on the planet. but it's real. This is not a drill. This is not a game. I don't care if you think it was fake. I don't care if you think it was staged. I don't care if you think Donald Trump was in on it and so on and so forth. Take your crayons and your coloring book and go in the corner and talk with the flat earthers. I don't want to hear that today. I'm not into that today. There was a lot of BS said in that montage. I don't have time to unpack everything. I'll just echo Dennis Prager's sentiment, which is that truth is not a left-wing value. Truth is not a left-wing value. Quisha made a brilliant point. She said when he said, wait, because he had to say something before he went off. But remember, when he was underneath the pile, what did he say? He said, where's my shoes? Put my shoes on me. No, you ain't finna walk me out of here undignified. Put my shoes on me. Put my shoes on and let me talk to my people and give them a gesture and let them know that I am okay. Where are my shoes? They just tried to kill me, and I'm trying to figure out where my shoes are because I don't want to walk off this stage undignified. Leaders, as the old saying goes, they are born, they are not made. You either have it or you don't. The old saying is that, especially when it comes to Trump, he may not be the leader we wanted, but he was the leader that we deserve, but he was the leader that we needed.
Yeah.
You know, all of these people, I'm not going to start pulling receipts on all of the conservatives who in the beginning didn't like Trump or wasn't on the quote unquote Trump train. That's okay, because I was skeptical about Trump too. But when the moment he opened his mouth, when he came down the escalator, when he said his first speech, I said, that's it. That's it right there. The only thing that I needed to be convinced of was it the truth? Was it real? This is not a game, ladies and gentlemen. I don't buy into all of that. I'm sorry, I just don't. It's nothing you can say to me that's gonna convince me of it. But when I first heard him speak, I said, that's it right there. Never have I ever heard a presidential candidate say what he said, and I knew from that moment forward, that's my guy. I knew, wasn't no hesitation. Again, I'm not trying to say, well, you should have came. You know, I'm not going to start pulling receipts on these conservatives. I'm not going to name them. But I always knew he was my guy. And lastly, let me just say, and this will probably be, and I'm going to pass because I know Blanch and Chad did a live last night, so they can wait. Okay. I'm going to tell you just real quick about a man named Sergei Kurtov. Sergei Kurtov was a high-ranking member within the Politburo of the Communist Party back in the 1930s. In the early 1930s, Soviet authorities, Joseph Stalin had made such a mess of things that they thought it was high time for Joseph Stalin to kick the brick, to kick rocks. All right. And FDR saved Joseph Stalin's political career when Yaroslav Molotov came to the United States and Franklin Delano Roosevelt appointed the first ambassador to the Soviet Union, William C. Bullitt, in 1933, which legitimized the Soviet regime. It is a belief that it was those who were seeking to oust Stalin who went ahead and killed who was his most likely successor, which was a man named Sergei Kurtov. He was assassinated by a man named Leonid Nikolaev, something like that. But anyway, one of those Russian names. So they killed him. And that is what began the Great Purge. Now, this may be the only time I will ever compare myself to Joseph Stalin, and I'm talking figuratively speaking because I'm a peaceful man. I don't want to hurt nobody. But they say this unleashed a fury in Stalin unlike anything that the Soviet people had ever seen. And this is what led to the Great Purge that happened in Russia under Stalin from 1934 to 1938. Some people even believe that it was Joseph Stalin who set up Kurtov to be assassinated because he wanted an excuse to liquidate high-ranking members of the party. That's how pissed off I am right now. Just yesterday, or a couple of days ago, Chad O. Jackson put up a post of Killer Mike saying some foolishness to Joe Rogan. This is the reason why I don't give these people quarter, and I have no patience for them. I feel like Mitch felt in the car talking to Ace on Paid in Full, that everybody that looked at me wrong, anytime anybody that ever said something sideways to me, they're effing deadbeat, figuratively speaking, because I don't want to kill nobody and I don't want to see nobody else get killed. But let's not forget, this is not a two-way street. This is the doing of the left. They've been doing this for decades. Call them out, keep the pressure on them, and keep banging on them, because it's not enough that we simply go along just to get along. They have to lose. They've been doing this for far too long, and I'm fed up with it. I'm enough with it. So I don't care if you're Killer Mike, if you what's the other clown who think he's an intellectual, Mr. Like a pen on the let's get down on the floor. What's his name? The dude from Mississippi. Him. All of these politicians.
I don't know.
And you know who I'm talking about, and I got the receipts. So anybody who ever uttered some BS collectivist, Marxist, tax the rich, blah, social media, social justice bullshit is on my hit list. I'm sorry, I apologize, and I ain't gonna cuss no more, but I have no patience for none of these people. All of them are on my hit list, and they have to be defeated. Period. Point blank. In the court, in the market of public opinion, politically, and so on and so forth. When you see Trump, Quisha, like you said, when he got his fist up and the American flag is sitting up above his head, that's got to be you. That's got to be you.
Exactly.
You got to embody that. That got to be you.
Yeah.
You can't just say, like I always say, what's going to happen when Trump gone? You got to imbibe that spirit. It's got to be you. You got to feel it, and you got to believe it. You ain't got to run for office. I'm not telling nobody to go out there like some crash dummy and kill themselves. That's not what I'm talking about. But you got to feel it in you for the sake of your children, your loved ones. You got to feel it in you. You got to be that. Let that symbol live on in you, because he gonna die one day. He didn't die yesterday, but he gonna die one day. But it gotta be you.
That's right. That's so good, man. That is so good, because when we're talking about this, one thing that you said makes me think of something that Blanch said. This was 2020, I believe. This was when the march to after the election. Blanch was like, all these Black people talking about, Trump, oh, it's white supremacy. And Blanch was like, white people, for the most part, they're not thinking about you, but that the love for their country, he said, it's internalized. He said, all we want to do is stay Black and die. He said, no, you give me liberty or give me death. He was like, those are two totally different outlooks on life. And so as we bring Blanch up here, who has been such a, great contributor to all of these conversations. Blanch, what are your thoughts on this whole thing? I remember you saying that, the spirit of America, it has to be internalized, or what I was hearing you say is, or you will believe anything. You won't stand for anything. If you can't even stand for all you got to do is be Black and die. Like, that's it. Like, where is the honor that's supposed to come with how you live your life? Caring about your country, caring about your fellow man, the internalization of the American spirit. What do you have to say for that? You're muted.
The media. The problem is the media is completely, when I say completely, I'll probably say about 99% the left. And so they control all the messaging. But it's criminal. And it's criminal because they're lying. So if you have somebody that may not even have time to investigate anything, and they cut the TV on, they're only going to listen to one side of the story. And so what we've seen over the past 8 years in 2016 is so much propaganda, so much lies. I said in a video that everything that Black folks have been griping about since I've been doing this for about 4 years, they've never been right. Not one time. Right? Black people have never been right about one single gripe. And for me to say that is very shocking, because that lets me know that this is working. For you to be wrong all the time is a problem. And so I remember I talked to Ray Lewis one time, and he said that he went to go see Trump. Him and Jim Brown went to go see Trump for a meeting. And he said that when they walked into the room, they had a proposal ready to go. And then he said when Trump saw him, he was like, "Oh, y'all good." He said, "I'll sign whatever. You good? I'm good." And so they was looking like, he said, "Y'all good? Let's just talk." And so he said before they could even sit down, Trump had already approved their program for the city of Baltimore. And I tell that story because everybody that went to go see Trump when he was in office got their demands met. He never turned anybody away. He either cut them a check or signed whatever. Trump did whatever people wanted him to do when he was in office. And then when he leaves office, now all of a sudden the same people are calling him a dictator. So to me, what the media is doing and has been doing is criminal. It should be against the law. These people should be in prison to get up on these platforms and tell lie after lie after lie after. Listen, even Pastor Manning, right? I love Pastor Manning. He's a fool. I love him though, but he's a fool. But even him, I had to check him in the live one time because he was saying lies about Trump. And I said, wait a minute, y'all, it's getting out of control. And so at the end of the day, the problem is if I remove Trump and Biden out of the equation, the media is still lying.
Right.
So the issue is the messaging. How do you combat the messaging if one side controls the messaging? To me, not that it's just not fair, it should be criminal. So again, to lie on Donald Trump and say that he's Hitler, you need to go to not jail, you need to go to prison for that. To call somebody Hitler that hasn't ever murdered anybody, that has done charitable works, that has put their country first, to even insinuate that he's Hitler, you need to go to prison. And so my gripe has always been the media. Even when it came to the Peter pandemic, you put on the news every single day, 24 hours a day, of how many people are dying, but you don't put on the news who's recovering. That's criminal. Yeah. Because what you're doing is you're planning. You're basically, I think somebody said the propaganda was called mind rape in German or something. So again, I'm just like, this has to be stopped because the problem is that the younger generation, I'm sorry to say, they're just dumber. They're less intellectual. They're intellectually lazy. They don't care about the truth. It's all about feelings and emotions. So this next generation, they eat this stuff up, whether it's on social media, whether it's Shade Room, whether it's CNN, whatever, they eat it up. So my issue with the montage, Joy Reid, and all of them is them lying on Trump. It's despicable. Even Joe Biden getting on there talking about the MAGA republics, the MAGA Republicans, and he's dictator. I've only known one president to try to mandate a shot. I've only known one president to say you can't come into a business. Like he's the only president I've seen in my entire life that started stuff that said you can't exercise your freedom if you don't do what I say. Matter of fact, he said I'm getting fed up. So the only dictator I've ever seen in my life is Joe Biden, on top of Joe Biden talking about he believes that children should transition and be a different gender, on top of him pushing abortion, on top of him spreading propaganda about racism. So again, my huge gripe is with the media because it's criminal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The closest thing to a dictator is their great icon, the archetype of Democrat Party politics. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the closest thing to an actual dictator, if we were being frank, from a presidential perspective, that this country has ever seen. And they love him. Mm-hmm. They love him. Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't even going to get into all the lies in the montage because you got to have some intellect to really be able to even deal with it. So, yeah, these people, man, I mean, like Blanch just mentioned, talked about Biden. I mean, Obama, we've never seen executive overreach to that extent in our nation's history before Obama came around. And so, anyway, go ahead, Quisha. I'm sorry.
Kids gotta go to the same bathroom. I'm gonna cut the fun. These people crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, remember, Joe Biden said that I can't remember if he was asked a question from the press corps or was he just talking, but he was like, well, we will basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, well, we'll basically just turn the military on to the American people. Like, nobody was tripping when this dude said that he was literally about wanting to like turn the military on them. Like this, he is the closest thing to, he has been the dictator. But don't the devil always do that? Don't the devil always want to point the fingers while he's behind the scenes, maneuvering?
Because,
I want to give a quick I want to give a quick shout out to our good friend, Miss April Chapman, who's in the chat. Please go follow her channel too, the Standard of Truth podcast, dope podcast.
Yeah.
She said, "Keep rocking that hat, sis." Yes, man, will do. But let me get Chad up here before we get all dug in here. Hello, Mr. Jackson. How are you this evening?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
So as someone mentioned in the opening, we had a different topic planned for this evening, and I think it was going to be a really good topic. But of course, you can't help things that happen that everybody is talking about. And so, with that being said, one of the things that stuck out to me immediately whenever the news broke that Trump was shot at. Actually, it was two things, particularly as it pertains to how the media was covering the situation. Was on the one hand, they were confused and kind of tripping over themselves, trying to figure out, well, was this an assassination attempt or was it something else? We all knew what it was. So the fact that they were trying to pretend, I mean, we already know that the press has lost its integrity a very long time ago. I would venture to say that the press has lost its integrity before I was even born. I don't think there was a golden age of journalism. I know we like to think that, prior to during the 1950s and 60s, that was a golden age. I don't think so. I think that the media has been leftward to Blanch's point since the FDR administration. And then when you look at a lot of the newspapers, anyway, I'm not even going to go there. But my point is to try to placate as if you are an entity of integrity and of upright moral standards by saying, well, we don't know. We can't say definitively whether this was an assassination attempt. I think was hogwash. The second thing that stuck out to me was the fact that they were saying that we don't know what his motivation was. What could have possibly motivated him to climb on the roof and try to shoot the president, the former president of the United States. Like that really tripped me out. And this is why this is why I showed what I showed in the montage. Basically this kind of point after point after point after point of the media doing what the media does and have been doing for the past 8 years as it pertains to former President Donald Trump. And so again, to me, it's important to show that because the very people who are now clutching their pearls, I wouldn't even say they're clutching the pearls. They are more so doing the obligatory, being shocked that something would dare happen in a first world democracy, right? This is their words. They are kind of putting that narrative out there so as to give you the impression that assassination attempts are below them, when in reality, no, you laid the breeding ground for such assassination attempts to take place. So that was really the point I wanted to get through with the montage. Other than that, I'm happy to get into the subject. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
Hey, Chad, it's the same reason, the same way in which they were shocked to discover just a week ago that Joe Biden was old and couldn't talk and couldn't walk. Now all of a sudden, he just became old overnight. He was too old 4 years ago. Now all of a sudden, in order to save themselves, because Joe Biden was looking like he was going to lose the election even before the debate, so now they want to scrap him and bring on the next meat puppet to go ahead and push the left-wing agenda even further. It doesn't matter who the Democrat nominee is. It's a Borg. It's a hive mind. It's a totalitarian mindset. There is no room for independent thought. They think with one brain. It doesn't matter who it is. It's just who can sell it better. They rigged the primary 4 years ago because Bernie Sanders had become the front runner, and they thought that he could beat Donald Trump in the primary because he was too, he couldn't beat Donald Trump in the general because he was too overtly radical. And so they had to, of course, play Joe Biden up like he was the moderate. And so there you go. And so because Joe Biden is looking bad in the polls, we got to replace him. So now let's do an about face. Just a week ago, right? What was the term being bandied about on social media? Cheap fakes. What the hell happened to that? Was that a cheap fake that I just watched in that hour and a half long debate? Or is Joe Biden actually old now? So when you see a fake crapper and all these bum journalists going, pretending like they all of a sudden became Sean Hannity overnight, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You're trying to cover your own behind. This is not about honest journalism because you knew Joe Biden was old. You've been covering up for him. Exactly. And now he got exposed, and all of a sudden you want to do your job now. Now everybody in the press corps overnight became Peter Doocy. Stop it, man.
Okay.
Stop it.
That was so interesting. And I'm still not clear on exactly why they allowed Joe Biden to be exposed because, obviously because they know that he can't beat Trump now. They firmly feel that. So it's like, okay, well, let's just expose him. Let's just throw him under the bus. But that's what communists do. Once they're done with you, they dispose of you. That's what they do. And so I was like, wow, they are really going to sit here and just let the chips fall where they may. They just sat. That is so evil. First of all, it was evil for them to even run Joe Biden because clearly the man was not
it was
coherent enough to be president.
It was elderly abuse.
Yeah, it's elderly abuse. Absolutely. I don't even get joy. I don't get joy out of seeing Joe Biden like fumbling around. And I'm like, then you're representing my country. Like, I don't.
Right. Weak.
Make me look stupid. You know what I mean?
Can't even walk up the step. Weak. And then they'll say part of the reason why, again, they say the things they say about Donald Trump, to say whatever you want about him, is that he exudes confidence. He exudes masculinity. He exudes masculine traits. And we have become so averse. We have become so threatened by manliness and by manhood. We've lost the sense of the heroic life. This goes all the way back to ancient Greece in the days of Homer, the Iliad, the Odyssey, the hero and what it means to be a man. We're so averse to it. And so when you see a man who exudes masculine characteristics, you're threatened by it. He got to be dictatorial, right? Because he's manly. But no, fascism, that word means something. Communism, to call someone a communist or a fascist or a dictator, to call him Hitler or Mussolini and so on, that means something. You can't just throw that word around. Like Blanchard, you can't just throw that word around. But of course, there are all sorts of judicial protections and things of that nature for folks in the media. You can't really go after them legally and so on because it threatens the First Amendment and all this other crap. Probably some progressive court somewhere kind of interpreted that into the Constitution where it didn't exist. But again, those words mean something. You can't just throw that at a man because he's masculine and confident and don't care about what you think.
Yeah.
Everybody's so soft. I can't, man, I'm sick of everybody right now, man. I'm serious. I'm not y'all.
Whew, thank God. We don't want that smoke. We really don't want that smoke. But so what have you experienced anyone in your family or friends or anything like that was like, oh, Trump's terrible, and then after this saying, you know what, oh, this was too far? Have you guys had any new people around you kind of have any epiphanies?
I don't even talk to my family about stuff like that.
I'm gonna say no. The people that was riding with Trump still riding with Trump. The folks that did, because again, most of my family's in California, so not only is the media psychotic in its programming, but also the culture in California is the same way. So once you watch TV, you go outside, it's the same thing. So I would say no. Maybe some folks at the gym I know, maybe, change their stance on Trump. But for the most part, I would say the majority of people have not switched over, in my opinion, to Donald Trump. I think it's probably, more Black men, if anything, that I see,
for sure,
that I see riding with Trump. But Everybody else is pretty much, and I said this, to me, it feels like the only people that really want Trump to be president are people on the ground. Like once you get off the ground level, it seems like if even the FBI, I'm just like, I don't trust anybody. I don't trust any of them because I just feel like they all compromised because they're all a part of this whole. Listen, when I see a woman Secret Service agent,
we're getting there. We're getting there.
And she ducking. She got a donut in one hand and a gun in another hand, and she ducking behind the president. I like all bets are off now. So at the end of the day, I don't trust to even be hired to even be his security is insane to me. I'd have been like, no, and I guarantee they picked that unit. I guarantee it for that day, it was that unit with them women. I don't trust none of them. So at the end, so it has to stop somewhere because it's going to be dead. We can't have people unqualified.
No, go ahead.
No, we can't have people unqualified flying planes. And I don't care. Y'all can get mad when I see girls patting their thing in the cockpit. I'm not getting on a plane. So when I see women hiding behind the president, I don't want them guarding me. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's based on it's a gender thing. I'm saying that it takes a certain type of individual to put their life in jeopardy for another individual. It takes a certain type of person to say, I'm willing to die for this person. So I just have not met very many women that's about that. Not for no other man. I'm saying maybe for the children, not no man.
That is I'm sorry. I really do. First of all, the Bible says that we shouldn't even be having women in certain areas that to be over men like that. That's number one. Number two, we don't have those instincts. That's why I'm saying, I don't even know if a bullet just grazed by. If a bullet just hit me, I'm probably not going to get up and be like, fight. I'm going to be, I'm going to be crying. I'm going to be crying.
You be shaking.
I'm going to be totally shaken. He looked like, just complete resolve. And he was like through his clenched teeth, keep fighting, don't give up. That is what men, it gives me goosebumps. That's what men do. Y'all are naturally built that way. It is such, it must be, I would, if I was a man, I would assume that, seeing something like that probably inspires you too. It touches you in a way that makes your own manliness,
Inspire who, Quisha? Quisha, hold up. Inspire what type of man? Because a lot of these men,
right.
They wasn't inspired by that. You shoot. Heck no.
The real men who who could understand that. I really pray that it does inspire some type of uprising, not in a violent way or anything like that, but just some type of for men to come back, real men just take a stand and say, I'm gonna fight. No. When I'm not taking this, you're not having my child, you're not cutting them up, you're not mutilating them, you're not bending them over, you're not, you know what I mean? You're not doing that. It's over. It's done. I'm snatching my kid out of your classroom. I'm doing what I got to do, to save my family, to stand up for my country. Let's talk.
Well, hold on. I wanted to make a point. Sorry to do this, Chuck, but I'm going to go there anyway. So Blanch mentioned the Secret Service agent, and my theory is as follows. When it comes to the fact that this was able to even get to the point that it got to, where you had this individual who was able to scale the side of a building, get on the roof, set up his gun, look down the scope, and pull the trigger, and come within an inch of hitting Donald Trump in the head, one of two things is true. Either this is just a subpar Secret Service personnel outfit that they assigned to this situation. But for me, I refuse to believe that. That it was.
No, Chad. I'm with you, Chad. I'm with you there, Chad. I'm with you there. I'm with you there. No, go ahead.
So I refuse to believe that it's just a matter of, they were just having an off day. Never mind the fact that there were people who actually saw this Thomas guy climbing the building. Yeah. Never mind the fact that some of them called the police. You had people yelling. Never mind the fact that you would think that they would catch wind of it quickly, instantly shut down the thing, move Trump to a secure location, as opposed to letting him just continue to speak up there. For me, either it's true that this was just a subpar security detail that was assigned to that specific event on that specific day, or, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say it, I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat real quick here. It reminds me of the movie The Dark Knight at the beginning when the Joker, they're trying to pull off a bank heist.
Mhm.
I think one of you actually used this analogy before, where there's different individuals who are assigned to different stages of pulling off this heist, and each individual, unbeknownst to the other, doesn't know that his assignment is to kill the last guy who got them up to that certain point in the process. And I feel like this was one of those kind of situations where the individual, this Thomas, what's his last name? Thomas Crooks guy.
Crooks, yeah.
Whatever. Even if it was him, I don't know. I mean, you can never believe anything these days. What does the saying go? Believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. To me, I don't know if it's a situation where this individual who shot at Donald Trump was supposed to somehow get away, but instead of getting away, he got a bullet put in his head, so as to cover up the evidence of what actually happened, so as to not have a potential threat, someone out there who can start singing. So that's a terrible analogy. I would associate that, or basically tie that to the Dark Knight movie. But to me, it seems like a situation where this individual was supposed to pull the trigger and kill Donald Trump, that the Secret Service did know about it, because otherwise they would have acted more swiftly than they did. And the idea was to kill Donald Trump and for him to instantly get a bullet in his head swiftly thereafter, so as to cover up the tracks. But because he wasn't able to hit his target, the plan just kind of failed. That's my take on what happened. When you look at the history of the Secret Service in America, when you look at the history of the feds in America, and how they have long been behind many a PSYOP agenda, many conspiracies to, in a sense, put a impression in the minds of the American public in order that they might feel a way about a thing, in order that they might vote for certain policies, in order that they might support certain candidates, this, that, and the third. And the fact is, we are on a move toward globalization, and the feds have demonstrated that they're willing to go to great lengths to pull it off, even if it means engaging in this kind of theatrical thing, so as to give the American people an impression of a certain thing happening or not happening, or whatever the case may be. We saw it with 9/11. I mean, again, tinfoil hat still on, but for me, it's like, again, just to reiterate, it seems to me that the whole agenda was use this individual to kill Trump and immediately give him a bullet in the head after. I'm not going to speculate as to why it is. Obviously, they didn't want Trump to win the presidency of the United States, but I don't know if there's something else going on too. But for me, I feel like, based upon the facts that we know, based upon the fact that the Secret Service was alerted, not only whenever Homeboy was climbing the side of the building, but apparently we're now hearing information on the news that they were notified that morning that there was a potential threat of somebody showing up to try to take the president's life. So we're now learning that today. And so again, either it's true that the Secret Service was just like the JV squad that day, or they were in on the whole thing. I believe the latter, not the former.
Let me clarify. Oh, go ahead, George. I thought you were
I just want to add one thing. And on top of that, to go to what Chad was saying, so imagine he pulls it off and then the news says the guy was a Republican and used AR-15.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You kind of wrap it up with a nice, neat bow and it says, okay, that's it and that's done. So to me, I just feel like with Chad, it was such a sloppy job with his security to where you almost got to ask, okay, well, what are y'all? One report said that a police officer went up there The guy pointed his gun at him and he went back down. So that's another report. So I'm just like, to me, the thing was just so sloppy to where you have to question JV squad. Are you in on it?
Let me clarify. Let me clarify before you chime in, Quisha. Let me clarify what I said if it was unclear to anyone. Like Chad said, he threw out a lot of ideas, and I am in 100% agreement with Chad. I'm in 100% agreement with what Blanch has said. Of course, I am not naive. I know things happen. I know that our FBI, our CIA have done things, have been behind a lot of things, and that's my point. And what I meant was when I said that I'm not really entertaining none of the fringe kind of nonsensical stuff that doesn't help the conversation. What I meant by that is I'm seeing people saying that the assassination, that it wasn't really an assassination, it was never supposed to take place. Perhaps the blood wasn't real, it was fake. The guy aimed, but perhaps he did. His target was in fact to hit Trump's ear, not to hit a vital part of his body. And so that's what I meant when I said I'm not into Trump was in on it too, and he allowed himself to be shot for the photo op so that it could increase his re-election chances. I'm not, no, none of that. I genuinely, but that's what I meant when I said it's not as real, it's not a game. No, they actually tried to kill him. I don't know if it was who organized it, what small cabal in the federal government. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know who or what or why or how. But a legitimate attempt was made on his life. That's what I meant. It wasn't staged. They really tried to kill him. That's what I believe.
I mean, people died.
People died.
Yeah. Got you.
So that's what.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Blanch, they said the guy and his family, they're running with the talking point now that his family are Republicans, but the guy was only 20 years old and had never voted. But he and his family were all registered Republicans, so that's what they're running with.
Okay. Republican, stop.
Well, my daughter is she gonna be 18-year-old. So she can't wait. She is ready. But anyway, so two things I want to just some things to get some behind the scenes. Number one, when you change your voter registration. I was a Democrat for years, and then when I changed my voter registration, it makes it look like I've been a Republican my whole life. They don't show when I change it. So he could have changed his voter registration to a week ago. Who knows? Like maybe to me, like sounds pretty like what they do, to make it all seem like it's it's
Republican. It's just too come on.
So that's number one. So when just because he's registered to, it's literally checking a box on a piece of paper. Okay, so anybody could do that, and it doesn't mean that he's been a registered Republican the whole time, because he did donate to. Reports are saying that he did donate to a left-wing.
Yeah.
Right.
Blue.
And they fund BLM and the Democrats.
Exactly. So it's a portal where you can like make payments and stuff, and then they have their own organization where they do work through it as well. The other thing I want to say is I've sang at 4 Trump rallies, so I've been behind the stage. I have. From behind the stage to going on the stage, same stage that he was president at the time. The president was going to speak on. When I tell you the security you have to go through.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It is so tight. There's these little buttons that they give you, to identify that only certain people have. I mean, it is very, 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 very tight. It's not a lot of people running around backstage. It is just not willy-nilly like that. And for this, because I would go sing and then I'll go and sit, like they'll have a seat near the stage for me. You can see the snipers on the roofs of buildings nearby. You can see them. Some of them are on their belly, aimed up. Some of them are walking around. The air support that is there, the ground support that is there, that's why this is so bizarre. So I had a picture of where the shooter was and where the stage was with Trump. It's just almost impossible for them not to have seen him.
Right.
And then they had a picture of the sniper who, you know, he looks like he has him in his sights and he kind of like does a double take, but the guy gets like shots, like it just doesn't make sense. It just don't make no sense. And so when we start to think about these things, you know, of course, people are going to try to make it seem like that we're being, you know, just, you know, conspiracy theorists and all of that. But if you just put two and two together, the amount of security, if you've ever attended a Trump rally, even if you haven't gone backstage, if you've attended one, you know how the security is just insane.
But Quisha, they were on every roof except that one.
Exactly. That was going to be my point. Like it was the only other building around.
Let me say this real quick, if I may, because you know we're on this whole thing, and I'm seeing some people in the chat. They're going back and forth. Was it staged? Was it orchestrated? And so on and so forth. President Trump has been in the political spotlight for years now. He has sparked ideas and instilled in people perspectives that seek to threaten the entire neoliberal world order. This is why I say everything that people are saying is completely irrelevant, because once you hear it, once you internalize it, it ain't no going back. I'm not going to allow this man to sit up here and say the things that he's saying and allow him to run the risk of destroying everything that we've worked for since the end of World War II, right? Just so I can turn around and make a martyr out of him after the fact and inspire the mob, inspire the masses that we seek to keep down in the first place. See, all of that other stuff that's going on in the political theater, whatever it is that you think about it, is irrelevant, because the only thing that matters is what you think and believe. It's about what you think. If you still believe in the ideas and the principles that underpin and you know boost up and you know of all the ideas, America, Western civilization. So if you believe in all of those things, right, then it is incumbent upon you. What happens in the political theater is irrelevant. This is why I say, listen, man, I'm really not in the business of any of that, because you still have to live in a real world where there are real life flesh and blood consequences for your actions, the kind of government you live under, the kind of institutions that you have to maneuver through, and so on and so forth. So all of that stuff is irrelevant. They're going to kick down your door and kill you. They're going to kick in my door and kill me. But they may as well do that if you believe as he believed. You don't have to see everything the way Trump does, but if you believe in this idea of the consent of the governed and that it is sacrosanct, then they must too kill you. It's not about what goes on that rally stage. It's about what you think and feel. It's about what you believe. And if President Trump inspired you to believe that your life and that your country is something worth fighting for, then I don't believe it's fake. I don't believe it. Because if that were the case, they would not have allowed him to do what he did in the first place. It's been almost 6 years since Donald Trump has been in the political spotlight. He has since inspired millions of people to want to stand up and fight for country. Make no mistake about it. And let me say this, the Democrat Party is a radical, revolutionary, communist party. They are a revolutionary party. Period, point blank. There are no two ways about it. This is not Harry Truman's Democrat Party. This isn't even JFK's Democrat Party. They are revolutionary. They are a revolutionary Marxist group. Period, point blank. End of discussion. That's it. And if you think, oh, they wouldn't kill or they would say whatever it is they need to say and so on and so, man, you don't miss me with all that, man. I'm not in the business of that, because once we start getting all confused, don't know who to trust, don't know who to believe, don't know this, don't know that, and all of a sudden we let our hands off the wheel because we're so disenchanted with the prospect of what it even means to live in a constitutional republic that some other pernicious ideology takes its place because we don't care anymore. Because it's all fake. It's all staged. It doesn't matter who you vote for. But when you have a politician and Donald Trump that as a symbol embodies the idea that we, the people, should have a say-so in how our government runs. It shouldn't be left up to the permanent administrative state, or what we call the deep state, to go on and to continue this leftward lurch, no matter who it is that we vote for. It is to protect the interests of the illegitimate fourth branch of government. And all of these elected officials on the revolutionary side of the aisle, that's their task. That's their job, is to protect the illegitimate fourth branch of government. And when you have a politician that's willing to try to fight against that illegitimate fourth branch of government, then that's when the so-called deep state will move to take that person out. It's about what you think and believe. Never mind Donald Trump. It ain't even about him. That's the stuff that pisses me off. All this, it's all fake. It's all a big one dog and pony show. Well, take your ass to the top of a building and jump off. You think it's an illusion? You think you're going to fly like Neo? This is not a movie.
Yeah. For
That's
real.
why
I
we
mean,
talk. Oh, go ahead, Keisha.
you know, when Chuck is saying it's not about Trump, if he can inspire the people to buck, to have a different thought, to consider something different, that is way more dangerous than the one guy. The mass of the people, I mean, because that is everything that they're always after. That's why they do what they do, to get mass groups of people to believe what they believe. That's why they're putting these communists in the schools. That's why they put them where in the media. That's why they place them where they place them, so they can propagandize them, radicalize them, and onto their thing. So yeah, and then you have so many people who has the bully pulpit because he became president to be able to say, no, I don't think so. Here's how I can do that, or here's what we're thinking, or here's a different way to think about it. Then it becomes that becomes a very real problem. That person becomes a real problem, and the fact that he's able to connect with so many people. He's able to, explain complicated things in a way that, the regular everyday American can relate to. That is very powerful, and they don't like it. So it's not really hard to people. Have you not seen what a human being is capable of? Like we are capable of some wicked stuff. Okay. We are, like, human beings are capable of very wicked things. It's not too far-fetched to think that they would just go and try to end a president. It's not even new. Like, this happens. So
you gotta defend your principles, man. You gotta defend them, because whatever it is that they want to do to you, they ain't moved on you yet. They still waiting. They got agendas. They got all this stuff they want to do, but they haven't done it yet. You want to know why? Because there are still enough people existing in this country and in other parts of the world who still believe in these ideas. They still believe in these concepts. They still believe in freedom, essentially. There's still just enough of us that still believe it. And they fear that. These people aren't that damn sophisticated. They put Joe Biden up there and expect people to go ahead and vote for him. And now they scrambling, wondering how they're going to find a new candidate, because all of the electors are now sworn their allegiance to Joe Biden. So now they all in a panic. These people aren't mad. These not mad scientists. These people have God-like omniscience. They're not that. They ain't what you think they are. You know what I mean? This is the United States. For all the problems that we have, I can guarantee this ain't North Korea. This is not some tin horn back. I mean, we're becoming that, but again, this is the United States. This ain't that. This is not Venezuela. This ain't Cuba. This ain't North Korea. This ain't China. So again, do you believe in these ideas or don't you? It's all about you, because you still have to live in this world.
Yeah.
They ain't moved on you yet because they know you still believe in it. They know you still cherish it.
And this goes back to the conversation we had about immigration. And when Quisha was talking about her experiences, that's what I was talking about. The reason those folks are able to come over here and reap the benefits is because America is what it is. For as bad as we think America is, people are able to come over here and make it inconvenient. They're able to have their chickens running around and scooters all in the street and setting up shop on the sidewalks because America is what it is. The problem is, once America is not America anymore, you're not going to like the alternative. because the alternative is going to be worse than what they had in their country. At least in their country, they're used to that. We're not used to it. So it's going to be a constant, really a war of cultures going back and forth, because you'll have Americans trying to preserve America. You have a whole bunch of folks come in, don't care about America. And at the same time, when we get on, the Bible and serving God and following Christ, that's allowed in America pretty much without persecution. Like, we can preach on the streets, we can do this stuff freely with no problem. All I'm saying is that once the culture of America changes, then so does America. And so that's why when I was talking about the immigration, if you let in all these people and they don't, and culture said it, they don't understand freedom how we understand freedom.
That's right.
And so but guess what? That affects us. And so again, people can say what they want to say about America. In my opinion, this is the best country on earth. And in my opinion, Trump was the best president. Why do I say that? Because during his presidency, I see more people be awakened to what's at least halfway going on any time before in history. When Trump was president, everybody was tuning in to what was this is this, whether it was foil hats, whether people were concerned, everybody was trying to know what was going on during his presidency. Now, as soon as Biden got in office, you saw the decadence return. You saw people getting IQ start dropping. You saw folks getting intellectually lazy. You saw all this, I want to be a woman, I'm the transgender. Think about what happened when Trump left office. The whole culture shifted. And I say that the Bible says that God selects the leaders. And so you have to understand that Biden is president for a reason. So if Biden is president for a reason, what are we supposed to do? To me, the writing's on the wall. Anybody at this point voting Democrat is insane. You have to be literally insane after these past 4 years to say, I still want to vote for Biden. Anybody saying that to me, it lets me know that, guess what? You're evil. Because there's no way you could want to align with this kind of campaign. All of these lies and propaganda, trans children, all this, the man is a woman, all this abortions, this foolishness. There's no way you could be a Democrat after these past 4 years. And so I agree with Chuck. And the problem is that people don't think it's a consequence, Chuck. People don't believe that fat means greasy. So they think that if America is diverse and America is taking over and America that you're going to be able to chill and relax and be on the beach and have fun, they're gonna line y'all up and they're going to ask y'all a question. If you answer wrong, they'll cut your head off. It's just that simple. And it's not going to be all dramatic like in the movies. No music going to be playing. They're going to line y'all up and just guillotine, chopping your head off. And so at the end of the day, I just think that we have to try to preserve America, just if we want to have the freedom to just even serve God, because you best believe if America is 90%, this other stuff in the world, we're going to be in a cave like in China.
Come on now.
Scrambling for Bibles, trying to pray to God that we
man, come on. Listen.
Come on now.
You know, they people don't, but you know what is so crazy? It's like the blessing of America has also been kind of not a curse, but it is just making people so, you know,
it's comfortable.
It's comfortable. Yeah, you're so comfortable. You can't even imagine anything else. You can't imagine another type of world that you would live in. Like, you know, you travel abroad and you just go about your little American way and you're like, oh, I can't do this. Y'all can't do it. Like, it's so foreign. It is so foreign. And you know, it just makes you it makes you see the world differently, and it should make you have reverence for your country and respect for where you come from. Blanch, can you read the super chats?
Somebody said on Instagram, white America was the best America. No offense.
Man, hey, they ain't lying.
Look, I ain't gonna lie. I'm like, after what happened, I'm like, I hope these white people wake up. These white men, they need to wake up and realize that their country is being taken. Like, come on, y'all. Like, where's the supremacy here? Can it kick in already?
Y'all crazy, man. Well, y'all crazy. Matt Blaylock says, Amazing work. Looking forward to the conversation. Thank you, Matt Blaylock.
Thank you.
Jesus loves you. God bless the chat. Chad, Chuck, Quisha, and Blanch.
Thank you.
You want to go, Chuck? Want to say something?
No, I was thinking that guy Matt Blaylock, he looks just like this YouTuber. His YouTube channel is I think the Biblical Conservative. They look alike, but I don't think that's the same person. I was wondering if Matt Blaylock was the same guy from the Biblical Conservative YouTube channel. But I think it's a different guy.
All right. Hey, CTTC crew and chat. Trump is going to the RNC convention too. Thoughts?
I'm sorry. First of all, it's gonna be lit. It's gonna be, well, y'all know. I don't know if you caught my thing about the Republican National Convention that's coming up. There is a particular speaker that I am just like, why? It's Amber Rose. I do not understand why she's going to be there. I think that is totally ridiculous for her to be speaking. She can
go
wear a hat. She can flounder around in her bikinis and half dress and do whatever she want to do. Why does she have to go and speak at the RNC? That's my beef. I don't understand that. I don't think that is going to do anything good for Republicans.
I don't know. Is it because you don't have faith that she will say something substantive, or is it her past, her reputation? What is it?
I don't think she really understands what I think. She's a Trumper. I don't think she's a Republican. That's number one. Yeah. Number two, to me, the RNC represents every Republican Party around the country, from the local level all the way to federal. And when you have speakers, when you have leaders at we're talking about the place where where Trump will be officially he will officially be the nominee. I think it sends a bad message to people who are like, okay, what's the Republican Party about? And, who are actually looking at us for the first time. And then we have somebody like an Amber Rose. Not that she couldn't say anything decent. I don't think she's going to be up there in inappropriate, I think she'll be appropriate. But I think I am tired. I'm tired of people who don't, we don't vet them. Just because they say, oh, Trump, and they throw on a MAGA hat. It's like, come on in. It's like, no, things are too delicate right now to just be like, kind of bringing in any old body. I think we need some vetting. I think, it's almost like you need to be discipled a little bit. You need to be assimilated into how we do things around here first. Right. Before you start getting on a stage and doing that kind of thing.
I understand. I'm not saying I wholeheartely support it. I was kind of indifferent because I haven't really even had time to think about how I feel about it. But I just want to get your opinion to kind of, give you opportunity to go in detail.
Yeah. People were like, "Oh, you think she doesn't? She believes."
But Quisha, can I say this, Quisha?
That she she can't speak. It's like, no, I don't. She can still influence her audience without speaking at the RNC. My only aside from the spiritual thing, you can do that without speaking at the RNC. My beef is the RNC. That's it.
Okay. I think you convinced me.
No. Listen, Quisha, I agree. But what do you think the biggest thing is for people to get to the Republican or conservative side? What do you think the biggest issue is?
What is wait, I'm sorry.
So say there's a group of celebrities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to, I'm just using an example.
Mm-hmm.
Say you want to get some celebrities on board with what you're talking about, whether it be Trump, whether it be Republicans, whatever. What do you think the biggest deterrent would be? For them not to come to your side?
Well, I would probably 3: abortion, LGBTQ, traditionally, traditional Republican platform, traditional marriage, pro-life, and what was my third one? A lot of Republicans happen to be Christian. So you go, look, when you come, I don't care Republican event, you're gonna pray, you're gonna salute the flag. I mean, the prayer, the flag, the prayer, the pledge, and the anthem. It just go like that's what we gonna do. They gonna pray.
So to me, the biggest deterrent
identity
from being, I would say, conservative Republican is the courage. See, the problem is that a lot of people agree with us that are on that side. A lot of people do, but the problem is there's nobody that's like them to make them, they're cowards. Most folks want to feel comfortable. So like they don't have anybody. Like if I step out and say, I agree with cutting through the culture, but I look around and there's nobody around me. So I think that their biggest issue is courage. You think they've been in an industry where it's no character, no courage. The industry is just, you gotta say what they want you to say and all this stuff. So I just think that sometimes you want to see somebody that would be the least likely to be on that side. And I'm not saying Amber Rose is conservative at all. I'm just saying for other people to want to go over, you want to see a familiar face and say, okay, I feel comfortable. Because the problem is that everybody is on the other side. It ain't hard being a liberal. It ain't hard being on the left. As a matter of fact, it's too easy. No vetting, no nothing. But I think when you come to this side, the biggest deterrent is the courage part. You think about Chad's stuff goes viral all the time, and it's a bunch of folks on there on the left liking his stuff. But it's just the courage portion of it that, okay, when I go over there, I don't want to be on an island. And so I think that it may be kind of strategic more than it is like Amorosa being used as more of like a pawn than she is a actual, you know what I mean? Like she's actually a staple for the RNC. I don't know. I'm just thinking in my mind.
No,
like,
I mean,
like Killer, let's say Killer Mike, right? I guarantee that Killer Mike agrees more than disagrees with us.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah.
But he's not just gonna say, I'm standing on this side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's not gonna do it. Like he knows that if he does it, he's alienating himself from the whole rest of the industry.
Yeah.
Chad, it reminds me.
I'm just like, I feel like there could have been somebody else. Like she's got her legs wide open with. I'm just like, it's just too much. Like, girl, like no, like
Chad,
I'm not there yet.
Chad and I were accused of being paid. This was the quote. The allegation was that Chad and I were being paid to keep Black people away from MAGA. So this kind of reminds me of this conversation that I guess we Chad
away
and I
from MAGA.
Yeah, that's what we do. We don't. Yeah, I can't remember because there's a whole.
Wait, hold on, y'all selling out. And y'all keep with MAGA. Y'all doing both.
Yeah,
y'all just
cause
the confusion on both sides.
Yeah, we kind of like double agents. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what we were accused of. Being paid to keep Black folks away from MAGA.
That sound like obligatory.
Oh yeah. Well, it seems to me that person they may have been. I'm assuming by their tone that they were probably a Black Trump voter or Trump supporter. And when Chad and I we had a conversation, just the two of us, and we weren't even really talking about really political or partisan issues. We were kind of going into some deeper stuff. We had this whole conversation on what exactly is the meaning of Christian culture, and we went to some other things about just how to deal with this whole issue of immigration and assimilation and yada yada yada. It was a lot of stuff. Chad and I talked for a long time. We didn't even really talk about, but I don't even think either one of us even said the word Trump or Donald Trump. If memory serves me correctly, but that's what they said. We're keeping people away from MAGA. I don't know what we said.
I can't satisfy nobody either, because y'all know I've been critical of Donald Trump and the Republican Party, and and today I'm like, I was voting for him anyway, even though I was still critical of him. I wasn't finna vote for nobody else, as long as he was the nominee. And some people are like, oh, I'm unfollowing, I'm like, I'm like, you ain't got to make an announcement. Just go. Just go.
That's
right.
They always announce, I'm about to unfollow. They have a whole paragraph. I'm about to unfollow you. You were talking about, I'm like, man, get out of here.
This ain't the airport. You ain't got to talk about your arrivals and your departures. Just go ahead.
As a recovering loony leftist, it's hard to believe that the shooter's conservative family gives a statement to CNN first. Man, people ain't no conservatives, man. Stop.
Okay.
Thank you, Jackhammer 23. Jaro, blessings. Thank you for the super sticker.
Thank you.
Oh, Jarobi, yeah, from Tribe Called Quest. My bad, Jarobi. My bad. Trump got much of the right on board with C-19 agenda, law support after warp speed, strangely gained popularity after arrest, now after miraculous ear piercing. The right is climaxing about civil war now. Q Bono, love y'all. Well, first of all, listen, y'all with this civil war. The civil war would have to be between who? It had to be between whites and, or conservative whites versus who? Blacks and
bliggities.
The bliggities.
Libtards and bliggities.
I can tell you right now, if you think black folks gonna put them hot wings and that Hennessy down to go get shot by some trained ex-military conservatives, you are out of your mind. It is not going to happen. It ain't gonna be no civil war. Now they may try to fake one, it ain't gonna be no real one. You believe that. You ain't finna get black folks out of bed, take no bullet. I'm sorry.
Overweight, Blanch.
It won't be a war like that, though. I think
but the blacks have switches though, so I don't know.
Listen, that they can't shoot. Right? They don't go to the gun range.
Maybe. It was so much in that comment that I'm not even going to address it. Keisha, just keep it moving.
Yeah,
can I say one thing?
Yes, that's what we're saying. There are definitely big issues that many of us have currently with Trump. There are also some big issues that we are fully in support of with Trump. But that is our job as citizens. We are the ones that's supposed to keep our foot on their neck. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not with all this team, like I'm just like on the team no matter what. Like that's not me. If that's not me. I am going to say what I agree with and what I don't agree with. That's how I roll. Like
and Keisha,
I'm just gonna say that because that's what we're supposed to do in this here republic. We're not supposed to be a top down, whatever they say, and we just supposed to be riding with them, whatever they do and say. No, you got me all the way messed up. No, I'm going to criticize him where it's necessary, and I will agree. And we should all be doing that. That is what you're supposed to do. As we the people, that's your job.
And Keisha, to your point, and there were times during President Trump's his first term where he would make certain announcements. He would hint at certain executive measures that he would take, and people would get upset. And there were numerous times where Trump would say something, the public would, his base would display their frustration or their we don't like that. And he would back off. He wouldn't do it, or he would change, or he would mitigate. He would listen. He would respond. He may not come out and say, "Oops, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, mea culpa. I didn't know you felt that way." But he would say things, and then he wouldn't do it. I remember when he was perfect example when he was trying to make that immigration deal with the Democrats. And, a lot of people, this was popular back then when they always said President Trump is, the whole 4D chess, right? That was one of the memes or talking points online on social media, like that Trump was playing. He's always playing 4D chess because Trump is so much smarter than everybody else, right? A little bit of putting on, right? Making Trump seem like he's somehow, almost more than a human being or whatever. Anyway. But I remember when he said he was going to do that, and people was like, but he said, well, those that are already here, we're going to put them on the fast track to citizenship if I can get, a deal on the wall. If I can get Congress to approve funding for the wall, the illegals that are already here, automatic immunity. People say, whoa, wait a minute now. I don't think we want that. And then remember, he put it out there, and then Schumer and Nancy scoffed at it because they didn't want to build the wall at all. And so they didn't accept Trump's terms. And a lot of people say, well, he was playing 4D chess. He bluffed them. He tried to, right? He played his hand. And then they showed you that it's not about the illegals that are here who are hiding in the shadows, who have to live lives as second-class citizens. Democrats don't really care about them. Of course, they want to continue to allow illegals to flood into the country so that they can permanently change the electorate, right? Because they don't want to build the wall. And so that all went to
cheap labor.
Right. That all went to you know what, and the illegals that were here were not granted automatic immunity by Donald Trump like he said he would. And there's other examples. That's the first one I could think of off the top of my head. But he does respond if you tell him you're upset with him. He will back off at times. Sometimes leaders have to do what they feel is best, even when others disagree. It's part of being a leader. He's not going to be perfect, but he does respond more so than any president in my lifetime. He actually listens. That's just a fact.
And I'm gonna say this, about people mentioning about Trump and Operation Warp Speed and the vaccine. So I remember when Trump was talking about alternatives, and you all went crazy and went against him. He did it. So when the vaccine came out, it's because the public asked for it.
Oh, that's right.
Talking about, he said it wasn't that serious. He said we can do this and do that to prevent it. Y'all was like, no, he making it like people are dying.
Yeah.
And y'all said he trying to put bleach in the body. Y'all went through the whole gambit, and then he finally said, okay, Operation Warp Speed, bring the vaccine. Now y'all saying it's his fault. No, you can't have it both ways. Y'all was against everything Trump said because he went in stages. He didn't just come out and say vaccine. And y'all said no. Now we got the vaccine. Now all of a sudden he the culprit. No, he ain't the culprit. Because when Joe Biden got in office, that's when y'all start taking it. Y'all didn't take it when Trump was in office. Y'all took it when Joe Biden got in office. So clearly there was a big change from when Trump said take it and Joe Biden said take it. When Trump said take it, y'all was like, man, get out of here. When Joe Biden said take it, y'all lined up and had traffic all on the streets.
Okay. Kamala said if Trump tells her to take it, I ain't gonna take it.
Like he made it or something. Like he made it. Like he was in the lab cooking it up.
Right.
No.
Like Trump was the doctor. The scientist making it.
Let me explain something quickly to all of you, the hate Trumpers, hate whatever the heck, and all these people. I had a homeboy come to me, and I think I got him on board. You know, he see what's going on. I've been working on him for years because he asked me about the Chevron deference decision. The whole thing with the federal regulatory agencies. The federal regulatory agencies are under the control of the chief executive. That's the way it goes. Chevron deference in 1984 established this idea that wherever the legislation was gray, right, these federal bureaucracies could take liberties with interpretation in order to enact what they believe was intended by the law as opposed to what was written in the law. So when Donald Trump, and of course, the Constitution, once again, that there are no federal regulatory agencies in the Constitution. These agencies and institutions were created by Congress, and Congress delegated the authority to control these institutions to the President of the United States. When he enacted Warp Speed, the conversation should be about the free market, i.e. the will of the individual to freely participate in something that they feel as though will benefit them for whatever reason, right? That's what the market is for, or mandating someone take a drug that they don't want to take. It ain't about warp speed, because guess what? They can warp speed all the drugs they want to. Right. If there's no market for it, then they're going to take the loss. It's not about the drug. It's about the totalitarian measures that were taken by the government. What Trump did was loosen the reins of the bureaucracy to warp speed vaccines to market, because Trump said it in no uncertain terms, and I believe I'm quoting him. He said that we can't continue to sit at home. We can't do this. Give the authority. He delegated the authority per the Constitution to the governors of each individual state. Some states were different. Chad said the lockdowns didn't even affect him. Quisha lived in Florida. Blanch stayed in Georgia. Things were a little bit different than they were for me up here in Michigan. Trump said, listen, it's nothing I can do about it. Get on your governors. Then you had a lot of pro-Trumpers that were upset because President Trump didn't go to war with the states. But they accused Trump of being a dictator when he has been probably one of the most constitutionally sound presidents of my lifetime. It's not his responsibility. I'll give you what you want because y'all wouldn't do it no other way. Remember, Trump said 2 weeks to slow the curve. I'm going on the advice of Dr. Fauci, whatever. After that, we done. We back to work. It was a blitzkrieg in the media that President Trump was trying to kill us all. Yep. He wanted to kill everybody. He wasn't taking the virus seriously. He think it's a game. He think it's a joke. Like you said, he telling you to eat bleach and all this. It's never said anything of the sort. They wanted you because they knew, of course, what it would do to President Trump's reelection chances, because one of the key selling points of the Trump presidency was the vitality and strength of the economy. If we weaken it, we can beat him. The President Trump said, all right. Dr. Fauci said it himself. I said I wasn't going to talk the wheel. Fauci said it himself. He said, because Fauci said a lot of things. Masks don't work, then they do work. Slow the curve, not the curve. Making it up as he go, pulling it out of his ass.
He admitted he made it up.
He said he made it up. Calling himself a doctor. This man has been in the federal bureaucracy for over 50 years. He never even saw a patient in his life. Never worked on anybody, but he's a quote-unquote doctor. No, Negro, you a paper pusher. That's what you are. And then he turned around and said, I'll call him Dumb Corleone, sitting right there with that. Well, we're not going to be able to get back to work until we actually have a vaccine. That's what he said. It takes about 10 to 15, 20 years in some instances for vaccines to go to market. Trump said, okay, fine, warp speed it. You're not about to keep the people locked down. I'm not having that. So he removed the bureaucracy and let the pharmaceutical companies do what pharmaceutical companies do. The problem ain't the vaccine. It's the fact that many people were forced to take it. That's the problem. What are people even talking about, man?
And the governors that stayed open were called racist. Let's add that too. If you were a governor of a state and you didn't shut everything down, they called you racist. So again, the media was on a tirade when it came to not complying with that nonsense. They was going crazy.
Right. Jill. So somebody in this is Jill Biden. She a doctor. She got her doctorate in education. This broad was a professor out of community college. She was at
Everest. Man, she taught
at Everest, at University of Phoenix, demanding that you call her a doctor. Girl,
Whoopi Goldberg talking about that she should be the Surgeon General. Okay, so. She's like, and then there was Whoopi Goldberg live on TV said, I think she should be Surgeon General. She's a great doctor. And somebody's like, well, she's a PhD doctor.
She's a PhD, not an MD.
Oh, is she? Yeah.
I don't think we realize.
Wait a minute. Whoopi said that and got.
Whoopi said that she thinks that Jill Biden should be the United States Surgeon General because she's a quote great doctor. Then the very next sentence was, well, I don't think she's a PhD doctor. She's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, just stupid, just completely dumb, like not even aware of what you're talking about. And people actually listen to this woman. This is the same woman who a few days ago said, after Joe Biden and Trump's debate, said that everybody has poopy days. I even have poopy days, So what? We have poopy days. We should still give Biden.
I don't think The View actually gets views though.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. Nobody watches that show. Nobody watches that show. The show was trash.
I mean, maybe baby boomer liberal women, but other than that, I don't think people set their schedule to watch The View in the middle part of the day.
Somebody probably subsidizing it, kind of like a Project Mockingbird 2.0 or something. Somebody subsidizing that. Yeah.
All this woke stuff is proven to not be profitable. It's already been proved. You can't name a woke movie that's made some money. No.
Right. And the sad part about it, Blanch, is that for many of us, I mean, they're using our retirement savings to invest in these bad projects. We talk about BlackRock and Vanguard and all of these institutions that pretty much bribing these private companies to promote all of this woke garbage. That's our future. Those are our investments. For those of you who don't directly control your investment portfolios, they are enacting these DEI initiatives with your money. What a shame.
Let's listen to this famous talker.
I never expected that my successor would embrace my vision or continue my policies. I did hope, for the sake of our country, that Donald Trump might show some reverence for the democracy that had been placed in his care. But he never did. Donald Trump hasn't grown into the job because he can't. And the consequences of that failure are severe.
He can't, huh?
Ooh, when this was that, to me, the dagger in America.
Check that chin.
If you know, I would say one of the daggers, one of the major daggers was that man right there. After Barack Obama, during his presidency and after, he for him not being able, this is why criticism is important. For you being able to criticize your leaders, because had Barack Obama been properly criticized, a lot of this foolishness that he was trying to push through would not have gone through.
What do you mean when you say properly criticized? By whom?
Like, what do you expect to do it?
Because the thing is, Quisha, and you know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but Rush Limbaugh was criticizing him. Mark Levin was criticizing him. Larry Elder.
Glenn Beck.
That don't count.
Glenn Beck. I know Blanch, because I mean these are folks who are on the right? So what does it mean to legitimately and properly criticize Obama? Are you saying that folks on the left would have to criticize him? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like people in his own party and people in the establishment Republicans, the ones that can holler at you behind the scenes, like, look, homeboy, that ain't gonna fly. I don't know where you could, like, we're not doing that. There more people who had been doing this a long time. Because honestly, if I'm being honest, I don't think that Nancy Pelosi is a progressive. I don't think she is I think she's like, she's going along with it. She doesn't have it.
No, it says she's an opportunist, a self-promoter.
She's I don't think
we saw evidence of that, Quisha and Chuck, with the squad and how they So exactly what Quisha and Chuck are saying. But Quisha, because you bring up a very interesting point about him being Obama, being properly criticized and made to stand accountable for his actions as president. Because from where I'm standing, there was a lot of folks who are on the right who are criticizing him. And not only that, you did see folks like Colonel Alan Powell, or not Alan Powell,
Alan West. Alan West?
No.
Not Alan West.
What's his first
Colin
name?
Powell? No, he
Colin
don't
Powell.
count.
So Colin Powell came and endorsed Barack Obama. You saw George Bush, who became buddy with Barack Obama. The Cheneys, all of these, the Romneys. You have these folks who are basically carrying the water for Obama as opposed to criticizing him. Even the late John McCain.
That's what I'm saying. Like the people who had some clout in the Republican Party, Mitch McConnell.
But is it clout though? Is it clout? I don't think it's clout. I think that they like that. Sorry, Blanch, but I'm gonna have to say this. I think that is what people are referring to when they say two sides of the same coin. That you have the right and the left working in cahoots. These folks, like the Romneys and the Cheneys and the others, they make up, in my opinion, the better part of Republicanism in Washington, D.C. And that is why folks like myself say I'm not a Republican. I refuse to be a part of this party that is just the Democrats' light, and it is a uniparty. And I get what Blanch is saying when he says when he criticizes folks who say who talk about uniparty, right, left. I get what Blanch is saying because he's absolutely right. But at the same time, from where I'm standing, this is the reason why I don't claim to be a Republican, because it is true that when it comes to the Republican representation in Washington, D.C., they are spineless, they are feckless, they don't have any backbone. They aren't doing what it takes to preserve the republic, even though that is part of the gig when you claim to be a Republican. A portrayer, a protector, a conserver of the republic. That is the whole point of calling yourself a Republican. But anyway, but Quisha, I take your point. What you're saying, or what I take you to be saying, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that yes, you had the Glenn Becks and the Breitbarts and the others who were criticizing Obama from the right side of the spectrum, but those who kind of make up this neutral kind of perspective or posture, this kind of moderate posture, they're the ones who, instead of critiquing Obama, they were carrying his water. And it is them who kind of were would have been useful when it came to those who were on the fence, in terms of saying, like, look, this guy is up to no good. He is defying the Constitution. He is moving us closer to a dictatorship, this, that, and the third. Am I understanding that? Okay.
That is absolutely correct. And these are not people that I have a lot of respect for. I'm sometimes Mitch McConnell, sometimes Mitch actually does make some very good long-term decision. He does do some long-term stuff sometimes, but the rest of them, the John McCain's and a lot of these other people, no, not trying to hear it. I don't no. And they said nothing, but then they had all the smoke for Trump. Like, please, I don't want to hear it. Had the country, had they actually checked Obama, there wouldn't have been a need for Trump. So now don't come Johnny come lately now. You know what I mean? Not the grand scheme of things, there wouldn't have been a need for Trump, but I mean, like, it wouldn't have gotten that bad. Obama.
So here's my thing though, Quisha.
Put through some really some big daggers in our country.
100%.
The ripples of that stuff is, we're seeing it. Like, we are really seeing this stuff, and yeah, that's all.
100%. But Quisha, here's my I guess, because what you said is true, and I'm going to add to what you said, because again, it was true. When it comes to this mythological middle, when it comes to this false kind of posturing of being neutral or being in the middle or moderate, which is bogus. These are people who are operating not from a stance of principle, not from a stance of duty or owing one's allegiance to the Constitution or to any kind of moral value or anything of this nature. These are people who are going along to get along. You saw Coleman Hughes, right? Coleman Hughes in 2020 came out and endorsed Joe Biden. And he did a whole video as to why he's endorsing Joe Biden. And one of the reasons that he gives for endorsing Joe Biden is because, and again, this is conservative, 30 under 30. He's one of the good ones. He's one of the intellectuals of the conservative movement. Hogwash. But anyway, he comes out and endorses Joe Biden in 2020. And what does he say? Yes, there are folks who have Trump derangement syndrome, but Trump adds to that derangement. And the only way to cure that is to give the people what they want, give them Joe Biden. So you can tell he's not a parent. You can tell he has yes, he did. You can tell he has no kids, because the last thing you'll do if you're a parent and your kid is throwing a tantrum in the middle of the store is give them what they want. No, you pick them up and you spank their little behind and you leave. That's what you do. You don't give a unruly child who's throwing a temper tantrum what they want. You check them. That's what you do.
Yeah.
But Coleman Hughes' political philosophy, when it comes to a certain subsect of the society throwing a temper tantrum, is to give them what they want. Let's just give them Joe Biden because, yes, they have Trump derangement syndrome, so let's just give them what they want. No.
Coward.
Intellectual. That's not what you do. Yes, exactly. That's a coward. But I'm not trying to single Coleman Hughes out. That is what their ilk. This is what this mythological middle does. They don't have any principles. They just want to make everybody happy. And are you good? Okay. Are you good over here? Okay, you're good over there. That's their demeanor. That's the way that they move and go about the. You know what I mean? So I don't think the Republican Party is a principled party. I sure as hell don't think the Democrat Party is a principal party. I feel like I'm kind of alone politically because nobody is standing up for truth.
Right.
At least with Trump, now I'm going to say this, I'm going to piss somebody off, but I don't care. I'm not a MAGA cultist. However, I believe that Trump is the best guy for the job. Two things can be true at once. I don't believe in the MAGA cult, but I believe Trump is the best guy for the job for where we stand right now. For some of y'all, if that's going to go over your head, you're going to, oh, you're against Trump.
I'm unsubscribing.
But my point is, Quisha, you can never rely on these people in this mythological middle to stand on principles, to stand up for the Constitution, to hold Obama accountable, because they're not guided by principle.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I'm just, this was just like wishful thinking, I guess. Like, I was just saying, if they would have, I think those who actually do understand America, that actually do understand the Constitution, that actually have been in politics for some time and knew what, the way that they could foresee the way this is going, if they would have taken a stand, I think we would have had something different, but they didn't, and I'm not expecting them to, but this is just wishful thinking. Something that already happened.
Let me weigh in real quick. You done, Quisha? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Like you all are saying, Chad nailed it. This imaginary middle. What Coleman Hughes said there is just ridiculous. Like when Obama was running in 2008, I'll be honest. I don't think anyone on the Republican side could have beaten him. I just don't think it could have happened. But still, case in point, of course, this always stands out to me. This just speaks to the cowardice of the Republican Party. Again, I'm not getting into, we know that politicians on opposite sides of the aisle, we know they make deals and such and so forth. I mean, that has to occur, if we're going to have a nation, because everyone's not going to agree. I understand, right? But let's just go with what Chad has just explained, right? That there is this fear, right, of the rabble, of those that bark and yell and scream, those that talk loud. That was led to the successful coup, as it were. Some people call it a coup of the Democrat Party at the 1968 convention in Chicago. The riots there that were organized by members of the Students for Democratic Society, led by Jane Fonda's ex-husband, Tom Hayden. But let's just look at 2008 as an example of this cowardice that we're talking about. Remember our Bill Cunningham. I don't know if you all know who Bill Cunningham is. He's a famous conservative a radio host. He used to fill in for Rush Limbaugh, I believe, sometime. It may have been Mark Levin, but anyway, Bill Cunningham, and I can't remember where this took place, but John McCain was at a campaign event giving a speech, and Bill Cunningham introduced John McCain, and during the host introduction of the Republican nominee, he referred to Barack Obama by his full name, Barack Hussein Obama. He had the nerve to say Hussein. John McCain took his, God bless the dead, took his raggedy behind out there and apologized. And went on this apology tour, apologizing to Obama and to the left on Bill Cunningham's behalf because he used the name Hussein. Because, of course, this was all in an attempt to convey this message to the American people that Barack Obama was not really American. Remember all of this talk about, was he a Christian? What did he do in Indonesia? Was he actually a Muslim? Was he actually an atheist? You couldn't talk about his Marxist past. Or even his Marxist present. No, you couldn't talk about that. But you couldn't even call Barack Obama by his full name because, of course, that was somehow a racist. And again, that's John McCain. That's his opponent. You got to be kidding me. And of course, as you know, people say now, well, Barack Obama was ripe for defeat in 2012, but Mitt Romney was so milquetoast and weak, right? That he wasn't up for the task. But let me say something to Coleman Hughes, and let me say something to John McWhorter and all these other fakers and frauds out there. Let's go down the historical record because I brought receipts. Give me a second. This may take a minute or two. Because again, they act like Donald Trump is so beyond the pale that they gotta say and do whatever, because to quote John McWhorter, whatever he said about Donald Trump being so immoral, he just has to go. That's not a policy issue. It's just, we don't like his disposition. Let me tell you why again. Grab him. I don't care about Donald Trump's disposition, and I'm gonna tell you why, because this ain't got nothing to do with Trump. This is about the left. Quote, "The stench of fascism is in the air." That's California Democrat Governor Pat Brown in 1964, referring to Barry Goldwater when he won the nomination in 1964. Here's another quote. "I am scared that if Ronald Reagan gets in office, we are going to see more of the Ku Klux Klan and a resurgence of the Nazi Party." That was Coretta Scott King in 1980. Oh, I ain't done.
Wow.
I ain't done. I'm not done. Ronald Reagan is trying to replace the Bill of Rights with fascist precepts lifted verbatim from Mein Kampf. That was Democrat Representative Willie Clay from Missouri in 1983. I got more. "I believe George W. Bush is a racist for many reasons. He's a mean-spirited man who has no care or concern about what happens to the American community. I truly believe that." That's your girl, Auntie Pearl herself, Representative Maxine Waters, Democrat from California in 1992. Oh, I ain't done. I ain't done.
What'd you say, Blanch? You knew that was Max?
I knew that was a black person. The way that was phrased, I could just tell it had the oppression all in it.
It was like an old Negro spirit.
Yeah, it's not like an old Negro on a plantation.
Yep. You talk about the rhetoric. We need to tone down the political rhetoric. No, this is coming from one side only. But if I call it out, then I ain't no better because I'm just participating. I want to seem like I'm above it all. No. It's you either step up and fight back, or you get your ass kicked because you're getting kicked around by a bully. These people are, as I said, they are revolutionary march. They are a bully. They are a revolutionary party looking to overthrow the United States and everything that it is that this country stands for. Oh, I'm not done. Y'all remember this one. It's not spick or nigger anymore. Republicans say, let's cut taxes. Of course, y'all remember that one. That was Charlie Rangel, a representative Democrat from New York back in 1994. Here you go. The new Republican-controlled House is like the Duma and the Reichstag, referring to the legislature set up by Tsar Nicholas II of Russia and the parliament of the German Weimar Republic that brought Hitler to power. That's Democrat from Michigan, Representative John Dingell in 1995. Oh, I got more.
Dingell, all right.
The GOP is coming for our children. They are coming for the poor, for the sick, for the elderly, and for the disabled. That's Representative John Lewis, Democrat from Georgia, back in 1995. Here you go. The GOP has a white boy attitude, which means I must exclude, denigrate, and leave behind. They don't see it or think about it. It's a culture. That was Donna Brazile back in 2000. Oh, I got more. We are in danger. The extreme right wing has seized the government. So look out. The right wing media, the FBI, they are targeting our leadership. That was Jesse Jackson back in 2001. You mean those Uncle Tom types. That's Gloria Allred. That's what she said to a caller while hosting a radio show referring to Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice back in 2001. Oh, you mean those Uncle Tom types. Another quote.
Wait, who said that?
Not Gloria Allred. What we are dealing with right now in this country is whether we are having a kind of bloodless, silent coup. President George W. Bush is trying to bring to himself all the power to become an emperor, to create the empire of America. That's exactly what they're saying to Trump, ain't it? That's Democrat Jim McDermott from Washington back in 2002. Y'all getting tired of me yet? George W. Bush is Bull Connor. That was, again, a quote from Representative Rangel. Y'all done yet? Every day, George W. Bush's administration, it unleashes squadrons of digital brown shirts to harass and hector any journalist who is critical of the president. That was Al Gore back in 2005, of course, referring to George W. Bush.
Wait, but
George,
Al Gore, his daddy was a racist.
Exactly.
Like, you got some nerve to be talking about what somebody else been doing when your daddy.
And again, I know y'all ain't gotta like Bush because we was just getting on Bush, but that ain't the y'all. Hope y'all understand the context of why I'm saying this. George W. Bush, this is your boy. George W. Bush has improved on the techniques used by the Nazis and communist propaganda machines. Of all people, that's George Mother effing Soros back in 2006, a man who went on 2020 and admitted in public that he helped the Nazis round up his Jewish brethren and said he did not feel guilty about it. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I don't feel guilty. Not at all. Y'all remember that? George W. Bush.
He didn't have no qualms
about it.
He said if he didn't do it, somebody else would have.
George W. Bush let people die on rooftops in New Orleans because they were black and poor. Of course, that was Claire McCaskill, Democrat from Missouri, 2006. I think y'all get the point. George W. Bush's administration engaged in ethnic cleansing by inaction. So simply
black people.
Not doing anything to alleviate this, they let the hurricane do the ethnic cleansing and their hands are now clean. I guess one more and I'll let it go. The Republican Party, check this now. The Republican Party would have the American flag and the swastika flying side by side. That's a quote from Julian Bond, who was then head of the NAACP back in 2006. Dean Cain, DNC chair back in 2008, quote, the GOP is the white party. Jimmy Carter in 2009, the animosity toward President Barack Obama is because of the belief among many white people that African Americans are not qualified to lead the country. Joe Biden back in 2012, Mitt Romney, of course, is going to put y'all in chains. And lastly, once again, Representative Rangel, he's a favorite around here. Some Republicans believe that slavery isn't over and they think they won the Civil War. Imagine that coming from a Democrat. He knows the truth. He just knows his stupid electorate are going to vote for his raggedy behind his party anyway, talking about the Republicans are acting like they won the Civil War because it was the Republicans that were fighting to keep slaves. You hear this? You believe it? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, John McWhorter. I'm sorry, Coleman Hughes. Donald Trump has sullied our politics. He's made it ugly. He's made it a bad, Get Donald Trump out of here so we can restore normalcy. This is normalcy. This is the Democrat Party, and they've been this way since the 1960s. I'm sick and tired of them doing this. And it's about time we stand up and throw it right back in their face. I ain't playing nice. Y'all lucky I don't run for office. I'm not playing nice.
Well, okay, so
what he said.
so this guy over here, Chuck Littleton, he was just at the grill, and let me just say the burgers are well done. After all the cooking that he just did.
Officially.
So here's the thing, though. Well, it does beg the question, and I don't mean to get all philosophical here tonight, but it does beg the question of whether or not, Quisha, you can actually bring me back up to the four of us, because it does beg the question of whether or not we are capable of self-governance. The answer, in my opinion, is yes and no. Yes, if we really restrict who it is that is voting. If it were up to me, all those people who quoted, who made those quotes that Chuck just kind of ran down the list of will be exiled from the country. Okay, you're gone, out of here, away with you. The most abysmal that I find out of all those quotes was the one from Coretta Scott King, of course, the late wife of Dr. Martin Luther King, right? The communist Marxist atheist. But nobody wants to talk about that. That's who Martin Luther King was. That's who his wife was. Even she was a even bigger communist than he was, but that's a different story for a different day.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. I want to hear that.
So again, if I were in charge, all those folks will be exiled. When it comes to voting, the only folks who would be able to vote are men, for one, who are property owners and who are Christians. That's would be the criteria for who can vote if it were left up to me. But be thankful that I'm not the one who's in charge here. So again, everything that Chuck just laid out is absolutely 100% on the nose. When you look at the montage that we played at the beginning of this show, that montage starts within the past 6 years, and all those clips took place within the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But as Chuck just demonstrated, it goes back way further than that. These folks have always lambasted their political opponents as being the end of democracy. And here's the thing about the democracy piece, right? They accuse Trump of being a threat to democracy. Unfortunately, they're wrong. I wish Trump was a threat to democracy.
All right.
I would love nothing more than for Trump to be a threat to democracy, because you don't want to live in a democracy. You think you want to live in a democracy, but trust me, you do not want to live in a democracy at all. But yes, Chuck, kudos, man. Like you really nailed that. And I've heard you give those quotes before as to, the fact that like these Democrats, these leftists, these Marxists have long been on this kind of bit of our political adversaries. They want to end America as we know it. But it does get to something I think that's more serious, which is, did our Constitution get it right? I don't know that it did. I don't know that it did. Because the thing is, this whole language of a more perfect union, I think was wrong. I think was erroneous. Because what it did is it left future and subsequent generations the ability and the freedom to move the country in a different direction. And we saw that actually take place in the 1960s. We saw that take place in the face of the so-called civil rights movement, which was Marxist, the feminist movement, which was Marxist, the gay liberation movement, which was Marxist. They systematically shifted the direction, the trajectory of our country. This experiment was a failed experiment as a result of what they did in the 20th century, as it relates to moving our country to a country that was kind of predicated on Judeo-Christian values, and now being a country that's predicated on Marxist values. They were able to systematically shift that in a seamless way by way of propaganda, by way of the institutions, by way of cultural subversion, ideological subversion. They were able to do it in a very kind of robust, slow marching through the institutions kind of way. And you can't really argue against what they're doing, because all they have to do is twist certain interpretations of the Constitution and say, look, it tells us that we have to do what we need to do to make for a more perfect union. We have to ensure that the most people have access to the most amount of freedom. We have to make for the general welfare of the people. So all it takes is this kind of sly kind of twisting and manipulating of the language. Whereas here's what I'm getting at. I feel like that we have to make in no uncertain terms who we are and what we are as a country. That's we have to do that, because to the extent that you do not, it does leave this kind of opening, if you will, for demagogues to come along and completely manipulate and transition the trajectory of our country to become something that we don't want to live in. And so what we're living in, this kind of experiment that they call it, this experiment of Western civilization, this experiment of Americanism, is turning out to be a failed experiment. And we can try our darndest to advocate for being textualists, for being originalists, in the vein of the late Antonin Scalia and the still living Justice Clarence Thomas. And I believe wholeheartedly in what they do. I believe wholeheartedly in their jurisprudence. Trust me, I do. But again, what then do you do with this make for a more perfect union business? This is the kind of thread that the Marxists have pulled, and they continue they're continuing to pull it to this very day, because all it takes is a consensus of the people. It doesn't matter what their actual interpretation of the Constitution was meant to be.
Right.
What matters is what the majority of the people think it ought to be.
What they think, yeah.
And this
That's
is
why
what
culture is so important.
exactly. And so they are very busy in the space of academia, in the space of primary and secondary education, in the space of the press, in the space of infrastructure, and the space of geopolitical relations. All the different facets and institutions, these people are busy in that work in their quest for globalization, and all the while they are shaping public opinion to be supportive of what it is they are doing. Most people don't have the foggiest idea of what the original intent of the Constitution was,
right,
at all. And so we can argue until we're blue in the face for getting back to the Constitution, but that goes over most people's heads because they don't even know what that means. And so it's for that reason that I believe we probably should have put some more restrictive measures in the Constitution to explain not only who we are, but what we are not. Because to the extent that you explain what we are not, you are taking away, in a sense, that leverage for the Marxian demagogues to later come along and completely twist and thwart what it is we're trying to do. And you can't say that, oh, well, they didn't know, the founding fathers didn't know what socialism was. It may not have had a word back then, but we saw in Jamestown that they were already implementing some fashion of socialism, even though they may not have called it that. That turned out to be a failed experiment. So they at least had that as a reference point to say, we don't want to be that, so we should at least put in the Constitution that we are not that. And I think in some ways that they did, but unfortunately they left it too ambiguous, and now we're in the situation that we're in as a country.
I got a question though, Chad. So why was America formed?
Well, I think that, so here's the thing, Blanch. I want to answer your question, but first let me say, because I think I know where you're going with this. I'm not saying that the founding fathers were wrong in what they did and how they did it. I'm saying that they should have gone the extra length. They should have gone the extra mile in terms of really solidifying, in terms of identifying and putting in no certain terms what we are not. To answer your question, the reason why the country was formed is because they were living under what they perceived to be a dictatorial, tyrannical leadership that was overtaxing them, that was giving them that wasn't really giving them the kind of representation that they thought that they needed, in terms of protecting them from some of the savages, the Indians who lived in the land and who were raiding them. We're paying you all these taxes and you're not even protecting us from the savages. There was a lot going on. They wanted religious freedom because, of course, in Europe, they were under Roman Catholic rule, and they wanted to be able to practice their Protestant faith without fear of having the government come down on them. So there's a number of reasons why they formed. Yeah, so there's a number of reasons as to why they formed America as a country and as an experiment. But what I'm saying is, because they kind of stopped just shy of establishing the fact that, no, we are a Protestant Christian country. That is, in fact, what we are. We make no apologies for it. Because they stopped shy of that, I think this is partly the reason why we are in the fix that we're in. That's just my opinion.
I mean, Chad, well, go ahead, Quisha, because I was talking for a long time. Go ahead.
So my thing would be, because when I read, in order to form a more perfect union, it implies to me the acknowledgement of imperfect man, and because these imperfect men are going to be ruling this new country, and I feel I always took it as an acknowledgement of man's imperfection. And just some people so when the left uses this all the time, they'll say, oh, look, see in the Bible where Jesus says he left the 99 for the one. See, that's socialism. There you go. Like, that's socialism, and that's what we see, it's right there. It's written right there. And I guess my only thing would be, like, just because some people take something the wrong way, it doesn't mean that it was said the wrong way. I'm not saying that it is. I actually have never thought about this, and it's a fascinating point. I am definitely going to be thinking about this a lot more. But just off the top of my head, when I first hear this, without really thinking about it, when people can take things to mean a whole bunch of different things. So even if they could have said exactly what you think that they should have said, and someone could still come in and take that and run off with it and interpret that a whole nother way also. We battle with this right now since the Bible was put together, of what certain scriptures mean and what they don't mean. And some of these arguments have been going on for centuries, because for many different reasons, people would just believe what they want to believe. So I mean, that's a really interesting thing. And I think, that's the question though. How do you give people the most freedom, but still maintain the integrity of a nation, of those founding principles? Because with that freedom, as we know, it comes a great responsibility. And so it just, that is the thing. That's why it was, they were ready to like shoot you, on the congressional floor, because it was, because what they were fighting for was so precious and so delicate. I think, that is the thing. How do we have a people of different backgrounds, different cultures, and different things but we can come together under this one thing? Like that's a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult thing to make.
Well, I think. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and the founders were up against it, and they knew this. Chad makes a good point, and I think with every, I guess, successive amendment, we have just simply expanded the franchise ever more so. Of course, Chad is waging his one-man assault against the 19th Amendment, and I'm not mad at him for it. You look at the 17th Amendment, I think was disastrous in terms of maintaining the Republic and maintaining the character and the original intent of the sovereignty of the states. Because that was the counterbalance within Congress between the Senate and the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives was a sort of a direct, or what they call direct democracy, right? Majority district, because of course you circumvent or you cut down on the amount of space and the amount of individuals. And so the notion is that this is a more cohesive community, and therefore the House of Representatives was more of like a democratic or a forthright expression of the masses, or the passionate will, or the majority will of the people. And so the founders understood, of course, that mobocracy, of course, can lead to tyranny, and so they wanted to counterbalance the spirit of a more pure democracy in the House with what we have in the Senate, which is why, of course, as we all know, originally each senator, both senators from each state was, of course, appointed by the state's legislatures, but we overhauled that with the passage of the 17th Amendment. The very term senator derives from a Latin term that means old ones or old men. And so the notion was, of course, if you're older, you're more mature, because the Senate was to act as the final safeguard to the whims of the mob. And so there, and Chad makes a good point. He talks about this whole idea of socialism. When there were socialists at the time, sometimes they called them socialists, sometimes they called them utopians. A very famous socialist theoretician long before Marx was a Frenchman by the name of Henri Saint-Simon. You look up socialism, even if you research Marxism and where Marx got a lot of his ideas from, he brought a lot of his ideas from an American by the name of Robert Owen. But Robert Owen created this socialist utopia within a town in Indiana called New Harmony. But the idea was not to make this kind of like on the federal level. If the town wants to try some sort of socialist experiment, let them try. And of course, inevitably it will fail, just like New Harmony did. But they knew what socialism was. It wasn't, of course, until Marx and Engels came later that terms such as communism or communism became became popular, because that was meant to be a kind of advancement, if you will, or an advance in the idea of socialism. And then over time, the terms communism and socialism began to be used interchangeably. But when we think about this term, or this idea of a perfect union of states. Again, our founders were drawing from a lot of historic inspiration. One of the things that comes to mind to me, of course, it was the political autonomy of the Greek city-states. Right, these were small states. There were about 1,500 approximately Greek city-states that were all politically autonomous, right? And so sometimes they would war with one another. They were all kind of connected by this single idea of Greek identity, but they all had their own unique and distinct cultures at the same time. The Spartans were not the Athenians. The Athenians were not the Athenians were not the Thebans. The Thebans were not the Thracians, and so on and so forth. And so they were the same, but at the same time they were different. And sometimes you would have what they called federations, where you would have these temporary allegiances between various city states. And of course, that would all just get completely overhauled with the rise of Alexander of Macedonia, because you have Macedon to the north. And Alexander had the idea that I'm going to consolidate the whole of Greece and create an empire. Because you can, and this is the paradox of the human experience. This is the paradox of the human condition. Because if you're a small society, you are susceptible to conquer. If you are a large society, then of course you are susceptible to all sorts of tyrannies and dysfunction from within. Because the larger something gets, the harder it becomes to govern. But the smaller it is, the easier it is to conquer. And so Alexander the Great just came through and swooped through and created this almost homogenous Greek politic. And of course, his whole goal was to eventually seek revenge against the Persian Empire, which he eventually did. And so when we talk about a more perfect union, you're talking about smaller political jurisdictions, cities, towns, and states, all under this sort of large umbrella that could, protect the rights of the individual, whilst at the same time not becoming too powerful so as to trample on the rights of the individual. That was the original idea. How successful they were.
I was quite off.
Did they put some things in there that wasn't this and that? Yeah, but again, of course, we're dealing with human beings. But again, I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of history. And, Marx and Engels, one thing Chad is extraordinarily succinct on is that Marx and Engels, even though when we think about, and I mentioned this last show, when we think about Marxism, we think about violent revolution, and they talked a lot about violent revolution. But one of the things that Marx, especially Engels, because he said in no uncertain terms that he was I'm going to try my best to get as closely to his quote as I can. But he was delighted at what he termed the expansion of the franchise, because he said when more and more people are allowed to vote, essentially to have a say-so in what happens in government, he says that because the working class as a class is larger than the capitalist class, if more and more workers gain the right to vote due to the expansion of the franchise, then we can enact this revolution and go into the phase of the dictatorship of the proletariat through legal means. I mean, what he said, we can achieve it through the political process and not through illegal means. That's a quote from Friedrich Engels. He said, the ruling class is now becoming afraid that we will take over society through the political process. There may not even be a need for revolution if we can get these countries to embrace more and more ideas of this sort of direct democracy. So it was a Marxist ploy, even back in the 1800s. Friedrich Engels said it himself.
Wow, that is really fascinating. But and y'all probably know more about this than I do, but remember Martin Luther King, when he was, I think this is kind of like nearing the end of his life, where he was talking about like trying to bring more of like the white working class, the white poor. He was trying to like bring these two groups closer together. Just what you just said, Chuck, kind of reminds me of that, because just building a bigger coalition to have more support. If it's more of us, buying into this idea, if I can bring the whites and the poor blacks and the poor whites together, now I can spread my message even further, and I can have more buy-in. So that's kind of still same playbook, you know.
Go ahead, Blanch. I cut you off. You wanted to say something?
Oh no, I was saying. I asked the question because when it comes to how do you have a, you start a country and you have people in this country and they all have different ideas, but you say we're going to agree on how we govern ourselves. How is it really going to work if this group over here says, well, we don't agree with this, and that group said we don't agree with that? So like, what do you actually put in place so that everybody can agree to it? I just think it's part of the human condition. I think the only thing that truly can bring people together is just, you got to go through Christ, because that's the only thing where you all can agree on something that's not based on skin color, it's not based on culture, it's not based on, it's the only thing that connects you without any earthly affiliations, so to speak. And so I think, I don't know if the forefathers were, I don't know if they were afraid to go that route, or they felt like if we do this, if we go this way, then the country would always remain small. It wouldn't be able to expand if we just make it, I don't know, because I kind of think about, if you have a God-fearing biblical nation, truly, I mean, how big would it really be? Like, how many folks would actually be a part of the nation? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, Muslim countries, though, but how they rule the country is a lot different than how we rule over here. So if we're talking about a truly biblical nation, how, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking, Chuck mentioned about, being small and being attacked and, being too large and being controlled. But if it's a truly biblically based, God-fearing nation, honestly, how big and functioning would it really be? I feel like it'd be a small country where I imagine the Amish kind of, like when you do your own thing over here, you kind of pretty much stay in your own lane, and then it's a whole world around you moving around, but y'all kind of stay, I don't know.
Yeah, this reminds me of the conversation Chad and I had last week. I'm not going to revisit it, but yeah, it's a very interesting question, and it's not an easy one to solve. But just in one sentence to address Blanch's question when he said, "Why didn't the founding fathers just do it that way? Make it like just pronounce it. This is a Christian land, whatever." I think that they were, once again, going off historical precedent and looking at how Europe functioned during the medieval period, when the church, had the authority over medieval Europe that it had. I think they didn't want, because of course, even the church, as a matter of fact, can be a source of oppression. But when you decentralize the authority of the church, which of course coincides with the invention of the printing press, and literacy exploded at the beginning of the 20th century, especially, and everybody can go and read the Bible on their own. And so you have these, what they call, you all know, church history, religious history, this term they call charismatics. You have an intense degree of labor, and some people are going to be more studious in scripture than others, and so on and so forth. And then you're going to have an individual, a charismatic, who's going to start a group or start a movement or start this or start that. And so now you have these varying interpretations of what it means to be a Christian, or what the Bible is actually trying to teach. And next thing you know, you got conflict all over again. Man, we just screwed up.
There's people interpret the Bible. We can't, even as Christians, unfortunately,
can't get right. Can't even agree.
We can't even agree. So what would even a Christian, like, if they would have said, okay, like, this is the framework or whatever, like, I think it's almost, kind of impossible.
It is impossible.
That would be a really task to do. Like,
it's the human condition.
It's the.
Hey, guys, but before you chime in, Chad, I'll let you go. I just gotta hop off, guys. I don't know what my phone is doing. It's acting crazy. I know we're probably gonna end soon. Normally I keep my phone charged when we're going over this, but I don't know why my phone is not charging right now, and I'm literally like, my phone is about to die, so I don't want to get abruptly cut off. So I'm gonna just say bye to you guys now. Great show, may have been the best show we've ever done so far, and I'll be watching. All right, guys, take it easy.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard it explained. I can't remember by whom, but whenever the founding fathers well, let me just put it this way: whenever the constitutionalists, or I'm sorry, the Federalists worked together with the Anti-Federalists to come up with the first amendments. That I think there were 10 amendments to the Constitution. The First Amendment talks about free speech, but it also talks about freedom of religion.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard it explained, and I can't remember by whom, but some constitutional scholar made the point to say that they weren't advocating for secularism or atheism.
Right.
They weren't advocating for people to be able to reject God and to allow their rejection of God to be the rule of the land of their respective state, but rather they acknowledged the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, the fact that the 13 colonies each had a difference in terms of the denomination that was more prevalent in their respective colony. One colony was more Anglican, another one was more Episcopalian, another one was more Catholic, and this, that, and the third. And so because they all had different denominations that each of the original 13 colonies subscribed to, they wanted to be able to practice their respective denominations and their respective states and not have one dominate the other within a federal context. And it is for that reason that they included the language of not having a specific denomination rule within the federal government. They weren't advocating for atheism. They weren't advocating for deism. They were advocating for states should be able to operate and to have their legislation informed by whatever Protestant beliefs that is respective to a given state. It isn't until later where you have the explosion of Marxism in the middle part of the 19th century going into the 20th century, where you have an explosion of humanists and Marxists and secularists who will then interpret the First Amendment to mean that we should be able to practice not only freedom of religion, but freedom from religion. And then that becomes the law of the land. So again, it becomes this thing where, depending on the generation, they interpret the original language to mean something different. And because there wasn't any safeguards given originally, really you don't have a leg to stand on if you're arguing for the Constitution, because it's like the founding fathers could have, been more
specific
in what it was they were trying to do, but because they weren't, it kind of leaves it up to interpretation, unfortunately. And I think it's for that reason why, because when Martin Luther King, I'll remind you all, when Martin Luther King got up there in 1963 and gave the famous "I Have a Dream" speech, which he did not write, it was written by his communist handlers, Bayard Rustin, Clarence B. Jones, and Stanley Levison. When he got up there and gave that speech, what did he start it off with? 50 years ago, a man whose shadow we stand in today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. And we were given a promissory note, and that promissory note has come back with insufficient funds. The Negro is not free. And of course, I'm jumping around, but he's coming to collect my check. Right? Yeah, he's invoking the Constitution. He's invoking the founding fathers. Of course, Abraham Lincoln was in the founding fathers, but you get my riff. Like he's invoking kind of pro-American rhetoric, and what he's doing in there is very masterful. It's a very masterful move by the communists, namely that they're subverting language in the Constitution to make you believe that the Constitution itself is one and the same with Marxist ideology.
Right.
That's what he's doing in that language. It's the very same thing that we see Satan doing when he's trying to tempt Jesus. Yeah. He too is quoting a masterful document known as the Holy Scriptures.
Yep.
He's doing the same thing that he did with Eve in the Garden of Eden. Did God really say
this really
or that? Did he not say this or that? And so the thing is, again, the enemy will always take the text, be it the Constitution, be it the Bible or the Scriptures or whatever the case may be, objective moral truth, skew it just a little bit so as to get you to go along with something that you ought not go along with. And this is what we saw. There's a lot of folks who believe a lot of these these black and intellectual conservatives, and they will tell you themselves, like Mark Warder will tell you that he's not a conservative.
Right.
Coleman Hughes will tell you he's not a conservative, but a lot of conservatives look up to them and read their books and so on and so forth. But I heard Coleman Hughes say that he believes that it was actually John Wood Jr. who said this, and Tavis Smiley and Coleman Hughes agrees with it, which is that Martin Luther King is the founding father of our modern era. Yes, you have the founding fathers who ratified the Constitution, but since then, I would say, they would say that Martin Luther King is actually a modern founding father, because the founding fathers originally were able to get us from the 17th century, the 18th century, up until the middle part of the 20th century. But then, but the Negro still was not free because he was behind. Women were behind. They were not considered in the original Constitution, says them. But what Martin Luther King does and what the feminists do in the 20th century is they bring everything full circle, and they are the kind of last of the founding fathers insofar that they give everybody freedom, that they universalize freedom in a sense, and they are the embodiment of the quote unquote more perfect union, and they completely disregard the fact that no, Martin Luther King wasn't a continuation of what the founding fathers did. He's actually a subversion, and a completely deviation of what the founding fathers did, if that makes sense.
Yes. But I would venture to say, Chad, that when they mention Martin Luther King being our forefather, I think what they're also saying is that the original forefathers didn't have good intentions, and so in other words, they failed because they weren't trying to create a more perfect America. They were trying to create, white privilege, racism, slavery, all these different things, and so they kind of say they don't get credit for creating America, because in their eyes, America isn't what it's supposed to be. And so when King comes along, he kind of lays a more, I guess, a better foundation of all men are, to be treated equal. But if we think about it, and somebody mentioned that what you were talking about was tyranny, but as I think about, I think Quisha mentioned leaving the 99 sheep for the one. What people don't get from that parable is the 99 sheep are obedient. There's only one that's running off. The rest of them are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So he doesn't need to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't factor in that the other 99 aren't like y'all. So when y'all say he forsook one for the 99, no, he didn't. The 99 gonna stay in place. They're literally just waiting for them to return back to the pasture. So even when we talk about that, Quisha, when you mentioned about people interpreting the Bible, you are 100% correct. When I see more perfect union, I don't know if they were. I think when they use the word more perfect, I think they mean the least amount of conflict. Like, I don't think they mean like a perfect, harmonious. I think they mean how can we achieve somewhere we get the least amount of friction between, I guess, people. I don't know.
Government and people.
I think it's just difficult to start a country, man. I really do. Like, because how do you? Like,
I mean, that's a great statement for what we're talking about tonight. How difficult it is to do what they did, and that defiant, rebellious fist in the air, Trump. That I'm so serious. That is just like that to me. That rebellious, that to me, it was just so American. It was so like, we're not taking this stuff, but it was different. They had to literally give their life. Their lives were on the line to create this thing. because it is difficult. Because you are kind of trying to go against, you're kind of going against the sin nature. That's why people love when they hear socialism. They're like, oh yeah, somebody to take care of me, great. Like you're trying to create something that is difficult to maintain. To create, B, to maintain. That's why there's so many quotes about
advance.
There we go.
See,
Yeah, like so many quotes of the framers, talking about, can you keep it? How do we keep this? How do we protect it? Your freedom, understanding that it is a responsibility. All these great quotes, these brilliant minds who were, trying to come together to make something that was very difficult to do. And right here, baby. Yeah.
Man, they got a chick in the front, man. Come on, we got.
Oh my God, yo, that was just. But that, oh man, Chad, you don't have that. You don't have the clip.
I'm sure I can. I'm sure I can pull it up. I can. But yeah, the problem though is Blanch is because I agree with you in terms of what they meant by a more perfect union. But the point that I'm making, folks, is that because they didn't really specify what in fact they meant, that is what the Marxists are in fact harping on today, and they have been harping on for a very long time. Is they are exploiting the ignorance of the American people, and saying like, look, we are justified in what we're doing because it talks about in the Constitution about making for a more perfect union. And not only that, in the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, it even says, and I'm going to paraphrase here, y'all can actually fact check me on this, those of you who are watching in the audience. In the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, it specifically says something to the extent of if a thing is not actually spelled out in this Constitution, it should be left up to the people and to the states. And so what the Marxists do nowadays, and what they have been doing since the better part of the 20th century, is they have been taking things that are not in the Constitution, and they have been forcing them to become a part of the Constitution, so as to move the country more toward a Marxist, and then after that, a globalist society. That is their goal. That is their agenda. That is what they're trying to do. They're doing it through social justice movements. They're doing it through academia. They're doing it through education. They're doing it through journalism. They're doing it through all of the different entities. They're trying to manufacture public opinion to be culpable in what it is they're trying to do. And so it's like, take, for example, I'm going to give you guys an analogy, right? Let's take your run-of-the-mill hack leftist influencer, like a David Pakman, for example, right? Most of the stuff that David Pakman says is fugazi. Most of the stuff that he says is completely just wrong. But because he can talk in a way that makes him sound intelligent, and because he can pull some data and statistics out of thin air, people think he knows what he's talking about. If you actually go and look at the data and the statistics that he's referring to, that he references, you'll realize that actually what you're saying is wrong. But most people aren't going to do that. They are just impressed by the fact that he quoted said data and statistics. And so I think it's the same thing when it comes to Marxists and the Constitution. They know that most people aren't going to go and look at what the founding fathers were thinking, and whenever it came to this language and this business around a more perfect union. They know that they're not like that. Most people aren't going to go and look at the debate that the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists were having prior to the ratification of the Constitution. They know that most people aren't going to do that. All it takes is Martin Luther King sitting behind a pedestal, or not a pedestal, but a podium, talking about, this is what the Constitution says, but it didn't apply to Negroes, and all it takes is the majority of the people, the plurality of the people, being emotionalized by what he's saying to go along with the agenda that he's trying to put forth. And so my point to you all is, we can get into the weeds of what the founding fathers meant, But at the end of the day, to most people, that doesn't quite matter. What matters really is how do they feel, and how are these demagogues able to exploit, on the one hand, people's ignorance of what the founding fathers meant, and on the other hand, the fact that they are able to intellectually cite these materials in their own twisted way, so as to give off the impression that they are smart, give off the impression that they know what they're talking about, so as to fool people to go along with what their agenda is. This is the very reason why you have a lot of atheists who are not Christians, who are pastors of churches. They know full well that they don't believe in God, but they're trying to feed a Marxist ideology into churchgoers who don't know any different. But he's a pastor. He's reading the Bible before me on Sunday mornings. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He's referencing scripture. I watched recently a Raphael Warnock sermon. He's a senator, but he's still preaching on Sundays over at Ebenezer Baptist Church. I listened recently to a sermon that he gave, and he was reading from, I think, Isaiah or something like that. The first quarter of the sermon, he's reading the scripture and he's preaching, but then after that first third of the sermon, he then moves into trying to apply the scripture that he just read to current legislation that is currently on the Senate floor, and how we need to get behind this legislation because it means X, Y, and Z, and God himself will support this legislation. And this is why Trump is bad and Biden is good. And so he seamlessly kind of moved from the Bible to current legislation. And he's pushing liberalism and Marxism to his congregation. And his congregation is sitting there hooping and hollering because they don't actually know the Bible. They don't actually know what the original context of the scriptures are. They don't actually know what the gospel calls them to do in terms of taking up their cross daily. They don't know any of that. All they know is Raphael Warnock is my senior pastor, and what he's saying must be true because they wouldn't just make him pastor for no reason. So again, it doesn't matter so much what the original intent was as far as most people is concerned. What matters is how they feel. And what the Marxists have done is exploit people's feelings. And that's what we're up against. Here we are talking about the original intent, but they don't care about the intent, the demagogue and the Marxists. They care about playing into people's feelings and emotions.
Mm-hmm. No, I would say, I agree, first of all. I would say that then the onus is on us, like the responsibility. And the Bible says that, study to show thyself approved. Like regardless of who is preaching and teaching and who the founding fathers were, like we should be, like what I said in the beginning, we should be critiquing and checking to make sure, like, okay, is this lining up or is it not? You know, because I think to maintain any society like ours, like an American society, if you want to have any semblance of freedom, the onus has to be on the people. And that is, again, why culture matters so much, because if you believe, if your worldview is of, you know, Marxist, communist, and nobody has ever showed you or why that's wrong or challenged your thinking or, you know, made you kind of probe and work out your own salvation, not, you know, even like literally work out your salvation, meaning like trying the spirit by the spirit, you know, all of those things that God tells us to do. I don't think you can have that if you're not doing what you're supposed to be. I'm going to sound like a Marxist. You got to do the work. You know what I mean? You got to go and do the work yourself to show yourself approved. And then it goes back to what you said, Chad. That's why certain people shouldn't be voting, because they haven't even done, you don't even know what this person is about. So we give a lot of power to the media and to you know, politicians. Not give, but they have a lot of power because we have free speech. They can say what, you know, they can say whatever they want to say. We should be checking this to make sure that it is aligned properly. So, but yeah, fantastic question.
I'll give you a prime example, two examples. So you know the Ten Commandments, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you read them, just most times you see them, they're separate. It's just 10 commandments.
Yeah.
But when you actually go read it in the Bible, it's context surrounding the 10 commandments. So it's not just 10 commandments in the order. It's the 10 commandments within other scriptures. And so it's kind of like, you know, we're going to talk about the 10 commandments. We're going to make them foolish proofs. You don't, you know, get confused on anything. We're going to specifically say this is what the 10 commandments are. So you kind of read, I get what Chad is saying. It's like when you create something, you got to make it foolish proof to where when somebody reads this, they can't extract this from it because it's just not going to work. And so, you know, even with the Bible, right, it says interpretation, but most of the Bible isn't interpretation. Most of it is pretty much cut and dry. It's set in stone, you know. And so, but people try to flip it and spin it, like Chad said with Senator Warlock, where he was preaching the word and then he slid in, God will support his legislation. Like you just start freestyling, making it up. But by that time, folks are already in an emotional frenzy. But again, I think that the biggest issue, Quisha, is education. I think what the public education system has done that is at the most detriment to Americans is not teaching context. And because everything is centered around taking a test and learning, most people, I thought it was just Black people, but I would say that most people don't understand context. They don't see the nuance. So when you say something to them, they can't even tell whether what you're saying is ridiculous or not.
Yeah.
Like when Warnock is speaking, or McCain, like when McCain goes up and he apologized for what's his name, calling him Barack by his actual full real name. That's a contextual moment. Somebody should say, well, why you, if that's his name, why you apologize? You know what I'm saying? It's just like,
exactly.
The education system has just took all that away. And so now when you talk about the Constitution, I guarantee most folks would read it and they would, listen, I think they would read it and be lost. Honestly, I do. I don't think they'd read it and understand a lot of it. And I think education might be the culprit here, just how we learn and how we're taught. Because what I'm finding is that these blanket statements that people throw out, people hang on to them for dear life.
Yes, they
do. Trump is a Hitler. They hang on to it. They don't even look at Hitler did this. Hitler was a part of this. Hitler, none of that. Trump's Hitler. And it's just like, goodness, where's all this? But I think it's education. I had the benefit of going to private school where you know, you had to argue points. You had to understand context because just the curriculums wouldn't allow you to just, you know, Geo can run and so can Jack. You know, you had to actually do that context. But I think, Chad and Quisha, that might be the culprit, is that the way we're not taught to actually be critical thinkers. We're not taught to actually dissect and find a nuance. That we're taught to just memorize and learn something. And then when you get to be an adult, now the media and think about it, what these Democrats do. They just say something. They just say stuff. They say the most outlandish stuff. And you're like, it gotta be true. Because why would they say it? You're not even factoring in what they're saying is insane. You're just saying they gotta be true because why would they lie to me? I don't know, man. We're in a tough spot, man. I'm just
But you know, they wouldn't do the people like Raphael Warlock and you know, all of the people who do these kinds of things. They wouldn't do it if they knew that the electorate was going to be like, what? Or like the congregation was going to be like, what did he just say? I know. They know that they have misled their congregation. They know that they don't know the word. They know that they're not reading. They know that they don't go home. They're not studying to show that they're thyself approved. And they know, and do you guys know Jason Riley? I think he's a fellow at the Manhattan Institute. He wrote a book called, I want to say it's Just Leave Us Alone. It's like, you know, getting the government out of your way, and particularly the Democrats. He tells a story of where Carol Swain actually is telling him about a congressman who tells her, she wouldn't give their name, but he says, this is what the congressman told Dr. Carol Swain. I can literally say that I'm going to RAPE babies and nobody's going to question me because I'm Black. Like, this is how, like, they know. Yes, she said that a congressman told her this. It's in the book that there is no accountability to these people. Like, they know that that the voters and that most people are not going to check what they say. He's like, I can literally be for anything and nobody's going to check me. Who going to check me, boo? Nobody. Because that's how confident they are that we're just going to listen and just nod and go along. We're not. So I feel like the onus is on us, because the enemy is going to use whom he will use, but it is up to us, whether it be as believers in our Christian capacity or in politics, and checking who is supposed to be our representative, making sure that we know what we're talking about and making sure that we know who we're voting for is what they're. Do we even go and look at their voting record? Most people, we don't look at the voting record of people. We just we don't even have the habit of doing so. And that's how these things get. They just get unchecked. What's that?
Unless it's a shooter, then all of a sudden you can find out you worried about him being Republican. Now you know how he votes.
Exactly. So let me play this clip before we wrap it up.
Your screen is blurry.
Oh, I think my my internet is tripping. We had a bunch of rain. My internet, everything's been tripping over here. So I don't even know.
Can I ask you all a question? I have somebody in here in the chat that says that we should vote for Cornel West. How y'all feel about that?
If that man gets in, as soon as he takes the oath, he will have generals walk down the steps of the Capitol. He will take a hammer and break the glass where the Constitution is, and he will tear it up in our faces and say, now, I'm the king of the world. You will bow down, bitches. He will punish everybody that didn't vote for him. Let me tell y'all how I know this. I know it because I know what mental illness looks like.
That's what I think about Cornel West. No, I won't be voting for Cornel West. There is nothing. Cornel West is a Marxist. Like, what? I would never vote for him.
But Quisha, we aren't even taught about Marxism. Listen, I learned about it in school, Marxism, but I don't know how many children learn about communism and it's taught in a way that it's not good. Not giving you an objective view of communism. No, you're teaching it. I'm talking about who teaches it from a place of this is not good. Because the problem is communism don't sound bad. Marxism, like I said, doesn't sound bad to the average person. So I think even when it's education on these things, like how do you get the youth to think that this is a bad thing? When you mention Marxism to these people, they don't make them tremble in fear. So like, so what, they Marxists? So what, they communists? You talk to the average person, they have no fear of communism at all. It's not even they have no concern with it. So what?
So I would say, you cannot, first of all, you can't rely on the public school system to educate your children because that system in itself is, comes from a communist worldview. Like it's not going to give you the proper education give your children the proper education. You have to teach your children yourself, which was in the original plan. Like there's no Department of Education in the Constitution. Okay. There was never supposed to be a Department of Education. So that should never even be. The fact that this was even allowed, that goes to show you that people aren't reading. That thing should have never been allowed. But one of the ways that you combat this is you have to actually have knowledge and truth yourself so you can pass that on to your children. And in passing that on to your children, then you can help challenge their thinking, and you help them. You have to give them some rigor. You have to push, you have to force them to think. You have to get them back in the habit of being curious and learning, especially if they've been in the public school system. You have to unindoctrinate them. They have to have a renewing of their mind. That's how you do this. Like there's no easy way to do it. You have to decultify them. That's what you have to do. But you have to actually know yourself.
You have to colonize them.
You got to colonize them.
Yeah.
You got to colonize
Yes.
them. You got to be an imperialist. No, I mean, I'm not. To Keisha's point, I mean, I couldn't have said it better. I'm not going to vote for a Marxist. That's exactly what Cornel West is. Like, the thing is, people who like Cornel West don't even understand most of the stuff he says, because he doesn't even understand most of the stuff he says.
Right. He's just black.
Yeah, exactly. Like he sounds obviously passionate about whatever it is he's talking about. And I think people mistake the passion for intelligence and for wisdom. He has neither. But he's a good showman. And people mistake showmanship for wisdom and intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a wise man, Cornel West. Like he can't be trusted with his own tenure as a professor. I don't know how many of you are aware of the fiasco that he had when he was trying to get tenureship over at Harvard before going back to Union Theological Seminary. If he can't even control that, what makes you think he can control an entire country? What are you talking about? No, I won't be voting for Cornel West. That pretty much defies everything that we talked about this evening. Like, I can't say everything I talked about this evening and then turn around and vote for Cornel West. Like, that's a contradiction. What are we talking about? Shout out to some of our new members. Alethea 846, Michael Sellers, L Walk, Realtor _, and then Miss Ree 07, J07. Thank y'all for becoming members. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Again,
we got 3 more super stickers.
Okay.
Okay. This is Robert Lamoa. When do you think the KKK started to lose its power and influence? When did the state and federal government start taking them seriously as criminal?
Well, the KKK is a whore. And what I mean by that is they were controlled by the feds. They were controlled by the Soviet Union and the communists. They were controlled by opportunistic local politicians and corporations. So they're a whore. They get passed around and ran through in that way. The KKK is used as a scare tactic and a boogeyman to make black folks stay in line. That's what the KKK is used as. I'm currently working on a comprehensive exposure of who the KKK actually was. People like to ascribe the KKK to conservatives and to Christians, when in reality, no, these KKK members weren't even Christians. Of course, they ascribe to Christianity so as to, in your mind, conflate the two. This is a psyop of the first degree in the early part of the 20th century. But again, it's a product of the feds and of the communists. That's what it is. But we'll get into it. But no, the KKK, I mean, you don't even have to take my word for it. Read Roland G. Fryers, who is a professor at Harvard. He did a study on the KKK, exposing them as a pyramid scheme in the 20th century. And in fact, in his study, he shows that in the height of the KKK, when they had their boom in membership, that same year or decade, lynchings were at an all-time low. So there's a lot that the narrative, there's a lot in the way of narrative that's put out there in terms of the KKK that is meant to make you believe that it's part of Christianity and conservatism, but the reality is no, it's a product of communism. And your typical run-of-the-mill Black Republican talking point is, oh, the Democrats started the KKK. There's actually a lot more to it than that. But over here, we're going to give you more. We're not going to just settle for the Democrats started the KKK and leave it at that. No, we're going to give you more for your buck. So,
yes, sir. We have any more?
I'm sorry. I'm just Robert. Thank you, Robert Lamoy.
Thank you,
Robert Malloy. Love your show. I learned a lot.
Thank you,
Robert Malloy. Then we have Matt Baylock. The irony of the left to call Republican candidates Nazis is incredible, as they use Joseph Goebbels' propaganda tactics. Shake my head. You know who that is, Chad or Quisha?
Joseph Goebbels. I've heard of him. I think he's oh gosh. Don't give me the line, but I have heard of him. I know this is a Chuck question, Chuck or Chad for sure. But Goebbels, yeah, I think he was. Don't give me the line. I'm not sure, but have heard of him. I think certainly a leftist.
Mountain Woman asked me if I heard. Let's see, Chad, you need to listen to that black man who joined the KKK. I wonder if she's talking about that cop who tried to reconcile with the KKK.
Yeah.
He joined it?
In his video.
He joined the KKK?
I don't know if he joined the KKK, but he got some KKK members to leave the...
Yeah, he got a lot to leave, yeah.
So
I didn't know he was a former cop.
But there are pictures, and some of you may have seen these, of like KKK, of lynchings where you currently have KKK members in hoods and robes, and there's a Negro hanging from the tree. And there in the gathering of the people, you see speckled in a couple of black folks who are also looking on at the body hanging from the tree as well. And the look on the face of the black folks is the same as the look on the face of the white folks. And so it begs the question, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Was this just some kind of like kangaroo justice mob lynching, or was this something different? You know what I mean? So I think Blanch made the point in a few lives prior that most black folks get their history from movies. Most black folks get their history from Hollywood. That's where they learn their history from. But it's not until you actually look into our past and you look at the fact that, well, lynching was actually a part of capital punishment. And it didn't have a race component tied to it. It was the fact that if you were found doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, you murdered a bunch of people, you raped somebody, and you were sentenced to death, lynching was part of the way that you would die. Right. And so, again, when you have a lot of these NAACP socialists ascribing every lynching, be it race motivated or not, to their Rolodex or to their numbers, to there were X amount of lynchings this year. The idea is to give you the impression that all of those lynchings have to do with racism, when in reality, no, these were people who were doing something they didn't have any business doing, and they were tried by a jury of their peers and convicted, and they met their fate, which was death by lynching. So I know that some of y'all are too sensitive to come to terms with that, but that's the reality.
02122 says commies think morally questionable people can't produce good ideas. Ironically, they're anti-constitution because racist whites produced it, but pro-Marx as if Marx wasn't virulently anti-black and anti-Semitic and anti-hygiene, etc.
Definitely anti-hygiene.
Virulently.
Definitely anti-hygiene, that's for sure.
Yeah, like Karl Marx, if you read his stuff, like he did not like to bathe. He was protesting a bath.
Right. Why do I feel like only reading one side of an argument.
I don't know.
That's funny to me. That's hilarious to me. Like you can get the run of the mill talking points literally anywhere. The conversation that we're having right now, you're not going to find anywhere else.
Right.
But yet we're expected to share some of the talking points that you literally hear everywhere else, in addition to the kind of stuff we talk about over here. Like if you want to hear Joy Reid, and if you want to hear Joy Behar, and if you want to hear Umar Johnson, if you want to hear those folks, that content is available to you everywhere, and there's an excess of it. But of course, if you come over here, not only do you expect to hear what we have to say, you expect us to also share with you the talking points that it's literally everywhere else. I'm sorry, we're not going to do it. The hell?
Okay. You got chat all the way messed up.
But thank you, David Lyons, for whatever he gave.
How you do that? How you give 0?
Yeah, I'm trying to listen. I'm like, he just found that loophole.
Yeah, are you a blinkity?
A loophole. What you doing?
Well, hold on. Let me be big here. So he said he is actually talking about the chat, not what we're talking about.
Okay.
I apologize. I repent of that. I thought you were saying that we weren't giving both sides of the argument, which we get that a lot. Like, oh, y'all only cover one side. I personally get that a lot. As a documentarian who produced 2 movies, one of the biggest criticisms I get from folks is like, oh, you didn't talk about the other side. It's like, you can literally watch 13th, which is on Netflix, that gives this whole idea of the government found a new way to enslave Negroes. Now that the slavery was over by way of the Emancipation Proclamation, they came up with the 13th Amendment to mass incarcerate Black folks. You can find endless supply on PBS or KERA. You can find endless supply on Roland Martin. You can find endless supply on the Shade Room of this narrative or of this mindset that Black folks are oppressed, that we're victims, that we're this, we're that, we're the other. But as soon as we come out with Uncle Tom, y'all want us to not only give our side of the story, you also want us to share their side of the story. So it's like, you know what I mean? So again, I apologize because I thought that's what you were doing, but you said it's not. So my apologies.
Yeah, I did not understand 13th when I saw. I was a Democrat back then.
I was too when I watched.
And I was like, I don't understand this. I just didn't.
Well, because it's not, because the problem is it wasn't true. Like, so what is mass incarceration? Like what is a concentrated effort to lock somebody up? How does that look?
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
You know, like if you're saying it's like the days of old with the quote unquote police slave patrol, I always argue, okay, well, who was policing the white people? Are you all insinuating that white folks behave themselves and they didn't need police? Like, what are y'all saying?
Yeah, they probably, but I mean, in order for somebody to think that just by merely having white skin makes you superior, you believe that they do have like special powers. You actually believe what racist people believed about Black people, that somehow your skin color makes you just different. You believe the same thing. You're just Black and believe it. You believe the same exact thing as the KKK, as the whites from the racists who believe literally your skin color gives you like some magical powers. It's whack. It's stupid.
We have Heather M. This will be the last one. Thank you guys for taking the time to have these important conversations. It's always appreciated. Thank you, Miss Heather M. I just think that what I find is
appreciate it.
All of the morality, the weight of the morality and character and stuff rest on what you would call the conservative or the right side. When it comes to being moral, it's not expected from the left. Like, because there's an excuse for every degenerate act. It's either because of racism, it's because of there's always an excuse for them to be degenerates. But on the conservative side, there's no excuse. If you are not walking that straight line and with your head up high, then you pretty much That's what I find. It's a way more of a standard on this side. Like the left actually holds us accountable with everything. So we can't just come out here and say something out of getting challenged. They can say anything and it just flies. It goes on a t-shirt, a billboard. If you say MLK is a communist, well, they want receipts, they want documents, they want dates, they want times, they want it all. So
then you tell them that Martin Luther King was in there with strippers and coke. They be like,
oh my God, boy, you better have the stripper, you better have the interview with the strippers, you better have photos, everything. Listen. Meanwhile, they can say Clarence Thomas. They say Clarence Thomas is what they call it? They call him something, not beyond a sellout. They call him something, but they can just say anything about anybody. There's just no proof. Just
yeah.
Hey Blanche, they want me to show on camera the actual dollar bill through which Martin Luther King snorted his coke.
Right.
Exactly.
Just for him to say, I don't see any residue. Hey,
exactly.
It's pointless. It's so pointless.
Yeah. You know, a friend of mine, he said the left holds the right to its standards, but the left has no standards to be held to. Right. So it's like he said, y'all are the one who says y'all have a standard. They never said that they had a standard.
They actually never said
they hold you to the standard that you said.
That's right from a page of Rules from Radicals.
Right.
It is
Saul Alinsky. Saul Alinsky. He basically argued that, like, you know, those on the right, they say that they're conservatives. They say that they're Christians. Let's hold them to their standard. He compares it to jiu-jitsu. You use the weight of your opponent against them. Mm-hmm. You use their momentum against them to pin them down. Whereas if you don't claim to have any standards to begin with, nobody can accuse you of anything.
Exactly.
God, that's so decadent. Good.
Isn't that so evil?
It's so evil, man.
But as we wrap up, I want to leave you guys with this inspiration, right?
Picture going up again.
Well, this is the...
Do you want to see the video? Oh.
I just go ahead.
We do have another super. Let's see here. As a recovering loony left. Oh, you already read that one. Yeah. Here we go. We got another one though. It's a super sticker.
Jarrell.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's thank you for playing that, Quisha, by the way, because it's like, you know, I mean, Blanch made the comment earlier or yesterday that like it just kind of seems too perfect. And I agree with him. It does kind of seem too perfect. But at the same time, like this isn't the first time that we saw Trump basically seize an opportunity to really show that he is a worthy candidate for the office that he's in pursuit of. Yeah. So, I mean, he instantly went down whenever his ear was shot. And that's the thing is like, I mean, it has to be God, because if he didn't turn his head in that millisecond, we would be
having a whole other conversation.
Right. It would be RIP Trump right now.
Yeah.
We'll be pouring it out for the homie Trump right now. But the fact that he slightly turned his head and it grazed his ear and his ear got Mike Tyson. We're having a completely different conversation, to your point, Quisha. So, I mean, that's definitely a God thing. But the fact that he got up and was impassioned enough to say fight.
He said I have watched this like a million times because it is so fascinating to me. He goes down, like he's like, they're scuffling around, and then he's like, where are my shoes? So he needs the shoes. And then once he gets on his feet, they're trying to move him, and he's like, wait. And he just like his hand just punches through all the Secret Service, and he's like, fight. I mean, the look on his face to me is just, Chad, can you do that thing where you put us on the side and you play the video?
Let me
it's the last clip up there. I just put it up there.
Oh, you put it in the deal? Okay.
Yeah.
So it won't let me do it. Okay, so here's how you can do it, Quisha. So
Okay.
if you go to present,
Okay.
you see present at the bottom of the screen,
Yeah.
and then if you click video file, do you have it saved as a file on your
Yeah.
computer?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So click video file and then find that clip and then hit open. And then when you do it that way, you can put us on the side of the screen.
Chad, do you still want the picture?
Okay, there we go. Look, I mean, it's just so the blood on his face. Then he's like, I mean, it's really fascinating. I know. I'm like, really, because I've just never seen anything like that before. Where does that come from? Like, where does that come from? I just gotta play the Wait. Look at his face. He means it. He's like, I just find it so incredible.
Now you know that black people are. You ain't, boy. Listen, when I tell you, black folks we're becoming ballistics experts and conspiracy and trajectory scientists. I'm like, y'all Negroes are. If y'all don't shut up, I don't care if any other group talks. You all can't say nothing about no conspiracy theory. After y'all said, I'm gonna stick out my arm. I don't care what's in it, and I'm taking it. You crazy? You don't. Y'all don't have a leg.
Yeah, that lady. What that lady say? She said, "I don't care what's in it. I don't care what the ingredients is. I trust Joe Biden, and I want him to pump that in my arm." That's what she said. All right,
Chad, you want me to send you these pictures, or you still want Lady ducking?
What pictures?
Of the lady ducking.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she was trying to find her gun in her holster and kept missing.
Oh yes. Please play that. So ridiculous.
Are you able to pull them up on the screen? You should have access to pull them up on the screen right now.
Let me email them to myself. Hold on.
I had the one of the lady talking, but I didn't have the one of them fumbling around. It looks so ridiculous. Couldn't even put her gun in her holster. Like it's just. But you got it, Blanch.
I have the pictures.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was just gonna keep talking until you. So just tell me when. But I find that so inspiring. Like as a woman that has a little bit of a rebel spirit, like I'm curious, I'm questioning things. Like I've never really been I've always just kind of been curious, and I have a bit of a rebel spirit. And when I see that, I love it. It was so. This
is her ducking. And you can tell she's a lesbian.
Oh my God, I didn't see that picture.
Did it come up? You got it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Here. Wow.
Oh my gosh. Wait, what is that? Who? The man, who is he on? Like, what is happening?
So this is Trump right here in the blue.
Oh, okay.
And
no, Trump got a gun. No, Trump ain't got no gun on, do he?
No, I said this is Trump right here in the blue. No,
no, that guy.
No, that's the Secret Service. I think they're trying to cover him up.
Right. So I'm saying this guy right here that's crouched over with his arm across right here. I don't know if y'all can see my pointer.
Yeah, we see it.
So they're all covering Trump. They're building a man kind of dome around Trump.
Yeah.
But this Secret Service agent over here is just kind of hiding behind everybody.
He's ducking behind the dome.
Right. Instead of covering Trump like she's supposed to be. So I don't know. Maybe it was the JV team that they sent out.
It was a DEI team. It was the diversity, the woman diversity team.
Right. Right.
Because I mean, the head of the Secret Service, she said that's what she was going to focus on. Getting a 30%.
Wait,
women.
You said the head of the Secret Service is a she?
Yeah. Oh, I got that.
Yeah,
clip.
she is. Yeah, she is.
Oh, I got that clip. Hold on, I can play that for you.
She's a woman. Oh,
woman. Yes. Look at this crazy foolishness. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Not me.
Expand hiring. They're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030 and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious as I sit in this chair now of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly women.
That workforce will be pivotal for the 2024 campaign season, which for the first time includes a former president who already has lifetime protection. Agents were there when Donald Trump was arraigned in New York.
We were able to work out the details ahead of time of how that particular day was going to go, but we will always ensure the safety of all of our protectees that we have.
The service has a zero-fail mission, a mission officers are training to uphold, pretending this field is the most famous address in America.
Lord have mercy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Who said?
Yeah.
Listen, man, the whole premise of Black people being oppressed is the Trojan horse for because this notion that diversity is somehow automatically good is insane. Like, it's just an insane concept. Like, just because you're not what the majority of it is doesn't mean it's going to be better.
Right.
Even functioning. It's just like we want women in there for what? Just think about it. Most women don't want to do it.
Exactly. I was just thinking that. Like,
so who y'all gonna get? Like, who you like? Where you gonna get these people from? They don't want to do it.
I'm like, this woman has to be. She's a lesbian. Like, she has to be.
You have to be like,
because like there is no way.
Daggers in the club thinking they want to shoot somebody. Saying no, they're not gonna do it.
Like, I just don't know anybody. I don't know any woman who would want to do that. Like,
well, they're getting all these bull daggers up there too. I mean, you could tell by the woman who's crouching by the haircut that she's a bull dagger.
I always thought that word was really funny, bull dagger. But just like they're the only women that I would think of that would want. They need like what's that one that went over to Russia and went to prison? They need her. At least she's tall enough. Like, none of these women are even like big enough to even cover Trump. Like, you're not even as tall. Where you gonna find a 6'4" plus woman? Like, a bunch of them to like be, just, oh my God, no. It's just ridiculous. So DR says, and thank you for the super chat. Goebbels and his wife poisoned themselves. Goebbels, I'm sorry, and his wife poisoned themselves and all their children. Hitler's propagandists, pronounced Goebbels. Like, I like that you called out McWhorter. Thank you so much. Thanks for the info.
Since we're already over 3.5 hours, instead of doing closing statements, if y'all, Quisha and Blanch, want to bounce off, feel free to do so. But I'm going to do something I don't typically do, and I'm going to play the montage again as we close out, for those who weren't able to catch it. So with that being said, I love you all. Have a good night. We'll see y'all. I mean, Blanch will be, Blanch, when will you be going live this week?
Probably on a Tuesday. Hold on, Chad. Somebody said get Queen Latifah.
In the Secret Service.
That's exactly.
Y'all crazy.
She don't want to do it. Now, she still wouldn't be able to do it, but she would want.
Man, ain't no woman taking no bullet for no man. They're not gonna do it, man. They're not gonna do it. They're not gonna
Just
do
no
it.
black woman. No offense, Quisha.
None taken.
You mean I'm gonna stand in front of somebody shooting at a man? You crazy?
You're crazy. Like, nothing warms my heart more. Like, when my fiance is like, talking about how he loves to protect his, his family, and how, like, if anybody ever, because I'll tell him some of the stories that I've had, with people saying crazy stuff, or like, coming at me or whatever. He's like, yeah, they can say all that stuff online as long as they keep it online. Like at the moment, if it ever crosses in place, like it's just, like as a woman, you're like, oh, thank you. The opposite of that. What am I gonna say? Oh, honey, let somebody say something to you, offline. I'm
gonna talk to them very sternly.
I want to hear a good finger wagging.
They better leave you alone. There's going to be trouble, buddy.
Now, if it's a woman, don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. But I'm just saying, like, what am I going to do with a man? Like, stop. Like,
what a mess. What a mess.
Anyway,
so what days are you going live, Blanch?
I'll probably go live on I don't know, Monday or Tuesday. I don't really know yet. Monday or Tuesday, probably one of the days.
All right. You can find him at He Is Blanchard. Quisha, are you going live this week at all?
I might Thursday and Friday. So it'll be towards the end of the week. But be sure to go subscribe and check me out. Cool.
All right, love y'all. We're gonna play that montage again. Y'all have a good night.
I love y'all.
We need to find out more about any kind of identifiers on the shooter, who he was, what his motivations were.
Here's what we know right now. Just moments ago, law enforcement identified the gunman as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. No motive has been identified yet.
We do not currently have an identified motive, although our investigators are working tirelessly to identify what that motive was.
I am poring over this individual's background and their history. Nothing we are seeing right now points to whatever it was that drove this individual to get on top of that roof today. We don't know exactly what the motive is.
He was bullied almost every day. I mean, he would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays. So, like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
We don't yet have any information about the motive of the shooter. We know who he is. I urge everyone, please, don't make assumptions about his motives or his affiliations. Let the FBI do their job.
President Biden today arguing that Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy.
Trump's not concerned about your future, I promise you. Trump is now promising a full-scale campaign of revenge and retribution for some years to come.
I am so concerned. I know we have all these conversations about how Democrats can't scare people to the polls. I am scared.
Let me help you out. I don't think that the threat that Trump poses is really being taken seriously enough by some people. Liz Cheney, who I've worked for and known for 20 years, recently said that she warned that we may be sleepwalking into a dictatorship.
One of the things that we see happening today is sort of a sleepwalking into a dictatorship in the United States.
We don't take an oath to a country, to a tribe, to a religion, to a king, or to a tyrant, or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
What is central here is, do we want a dictator? No matter how popular he may be, no matter how good or bad the results of his policies may be, no president is supposed to be a dictator in the United States.
I know Trump would like to become dictator for life, and he's probably watching Vladimir Putin with envy.
Donald Trump believes that he should be the ruler, the dictator of the United States of America. He actually is looking to change the Constitution.
There's no question he has authoritarian rulings and interests and notions which he will try and impose. That's dangerous for the country. And a number of the things he did in the last months of his presidency suggest what he'd do if he were elected again.
Trump represents an existential threat to democracy. He is an authoritarian figure. He is the first authoritarian figure ever nominated by a major party in the United States.
This rhetoric is so far outside the bounds of our normal politics that we have to address it as such. He doesn't see himself as a political candidate vying for the presidency. He sees himself as an insurgent who wants to overthrow the U.S. government. And that's what a lot of his people believe, too. He's completely outside the bounds of our political normalcy.
That hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Do you still think it's fair to compare the Nazi attack on the Jews to what happened on January 6th?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like a threat to democracy. I know with my father, who was part of the Nazi party, they were lied to. They were misled And I think a lot of people in America today are being misled.
Most people would agree Donald Trump might be the most divisive presidential candidate ever. Many are openly comparing Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Yes. There are just people who are going to be conservative, and they're about to take over the government. And they're not going to give it back.
Historians are now comparing what Donald Trump is saying in public on the campaign trail to dictators like Mussolini. He would try to stay in power forever.
If he becomes president again, he's never going, listen, he's not going to not stop being president. You understand this? Yeah. His idea is to stay in until he drops dead.
That's it. He's not even conceding it now. So imagine if he actually did win the election. Yeah. It's over. If he gets elected, it's going to change this country for everybody.
We have a president who will refuse to leave office if he loses the election.
I never expected that my successor would embrace my vision or continue my policies. I did hope, for the sake of our country, that Donald Trump might show some reverence for the democracy that had been placed in his care. But he never did. Donald Trump hasn't grown into the job because he can't. And the consequences of that failure are severe.
They don't understand because they're saying that 26-year-olds and under are not feeling President Biden. You know, they better be careful what they want because this is the generation that's going to lose their abortion rights and their voting rights. They're the ones to be worried. You don't replace dissatisfaction with a dictatorship.
Trump will put black people in camps.
If that man gets in, as soon as he takes the oath, he will have generals walk down the steps of the Capitol. He will take a hammer and break the glass where the Constitution is, and he will tear it up in our faces and say, now, I'm the king of the world. You will bow down, bitches. He will punish everybody that didn't vote for him. Let me tell y'all how I know this. I know it because I know what mental illness looks like.
We need to remind people the threat that Donald Trump poses, not just for 4 years, but for generations. Supreme Court is at risk. Women's rights are at risk. Civil rights are at risk. And I would just remind people of that.
You think that it's appropriate that somebody who incited that riot and won't apologize for it should get another term to run the country? He's 5 years old and he's a horrible, amoral human being. We can't have him. There are times I almost wish I could, or somebody else would. We can't have him. He's dangerous.
Why don't we have any idea who his VP is going to be? Is it because he's not running for president of the United States? He's running for king of the United States, and there's no such thing as a vice king. This is a man who has been very clear that he plans to be a dictator. This is not going to end well for any of us. Dictatorships never do. So we would be smart to kill this one before it starts.
Oh, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Hold.